the Embassy of Nigeria to Brussels, to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU, and as well as to my ambassador, His Excellency Gauthier Mignot. And then I'll introduce the different panelists. Each one, it's his or her turn. But just to say that we also have the representatives of the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, as well as the Federal Minister of Education with us. Thank you, sirs and doctors, for being here. So maybe we can start immediately with Ambassador Gauthier Mignot for his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leila. Good morning or to all, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Distinguished speakers, esteemed guests, colleagues, and participants. Very happy to be here at the Nigerian Embassy in Brussels with Excellency Madame Faith Akwekwo, the Chargée d'Affaires, and her team. And of course, a special greeting also to His Excellency, the Minister of Science, Technology, Innovation, Chief Uche Geoffrey Naji, represented by Dr. Patrick Huma, to also His Excellency, the Federal Minister of Education, Dr. Rufu Olatoni Alarusa, represented by Dr. Lola Adeyemi, and also to the TETFUN Executive Secretary, Mr. Soni Oshono, represented by Mr. Bakari Jirey. A special greeting also to our colleagues from the DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission. I think our colleague, Madame Annie Guzman, is connected, and here with us we have Vincenzo Russo, who will speak on new cooperation prospects in the Horizon Europe and Africa Initiative 3.0 also. And of course, thank you to our moderators. Perhaps you will ask yourself why the EU ambassador to Nigeria is not in Nigeria. And I have two answers to this. First, I am in Nigeria because I'm here at the Nigerian Embassy. And second, I'm this week in Brussels for a series of meetings with headquarters, but I'll be back soon in Abuja. And I'm very happy to welcome you today to this online info day on science, technology, and innovation cooperation between Nigeria and the European Union, with a very special focus on Horizon Europe and the Africa Initiative 3. While our focus is on Nigeria today, I am delighted to welcome all of you joining online, not only from across Nigeria, but also from the wider African continent. And I see that the number of participants connected is growing by the second almost. From Africa, but also from Europe or from other parts of the world. And we will be joined by several speakers and government representatives, including those I mentioned initially. Also special greetings to our colleagues from DG Education and Culture, EURAXESS Africa, and Erasmus+. We will also share valuable insights on mobility and capacity building opportunities. And let me also extend a special welcome to the Nigerian academics who will share their direct experience with Horizon Europe projects. So thank you all for being here today. And our goal is to explore the concrete opportunities for collaboration between Nigeria and the EU, starting with the very cornerstone of this effort, Horizon Europe, including Africa Initiative 3. But let me stress first that science and innovation are among the priorities of the EU-Nigeria relationship. Of course, we have a relationship across the board. The EU is Nigeria's first trade and investment partner, for instance. We have a very strong partnership also in peace, security, and defense, on migration. But science and innovation is also a key topic because it is really strengthening and preparing the future, and also strengthening the people-to-people relationship between our academics, our researchers, our scholars. And this is not only a very important topic, but a topic which is very dear to my heart, I must say. As you know, Horizon Europe is the EU's flagship program for research and innovation, with a total budget of over 95 billion euros. It supports scientific excellence and delivers innovative solutions to global challenges, from climate change and digitalization to food security, health, and energy transition. And Horizon Europe also empowers individuals and institutions through mobility and training opportunities, including the Marie Sklodowska-Curie Action, the MSCA. International cooperation, of course, is not a side element. Indeed, it is central to Horizon Europe's purpose, and Africa, especially Nigeria, is an essential partner. In a world facing increasing geopolitical complexities, we believe strongly that science must remain a fundamental bridge for dialogue and mutual understanding. And this principle is fundamental to the very DNA of Horizon Europe. And this year, the European Union launched Africa Initiative 3 as part of the 2025 Horizon Europe Work Programme. And this new wave of support, of course, builds on the success of Africa Initiatives 1 and 2, and it reflects our shared commitment under the African Union, European Union Innovation Agenda. Actually, it also supports the EU's decade of education transformation, youth, skills development and innovation, starting this year and spanning up to 2034. And Africa Initiative 3 will allocate some 500 million euros across 24 targeted calls in 5 areas: public health, green transition, innovation and technology, capacities for science, and cross-cutting issues. And if you look at the amounts, green transition comes first with 241 million euros to be allocated. Then innovation and technology comes second with 186.5 million euros. Then 50 million will be allocated to public health. And finally, 19.5 million euros for cross-cutting issues and 3.5 for capacities for science. And these goals aim to ensure strong African participation in consortia, addressing shared challenges such as climate adaptation, sustainable agriculture, digital innovation, clean energy, science for policy, and equitable access to healthcare. Nigeria is not only Africa's most populous nation, it is a key driver of scientific progress, of entrepreneurial energy and human capital. And the EU sees Nigeria as a very important strategic partner in delivering the goals of Africa Initiative 3. Because your universities, your research institutes, enterprises and innovators have a vital role to play in turning Horizon Europe goals, including Africa Initiative 3, into high-impact partnerships that benefit both Africa and Europe. I would like also to highlight the complementarity between Horizon Europe and Erasmus+, the EU's education and training program. While Horizon Europe drives research and innovation, Erasmus+ strengthens international capacity and academic cooperation through capacity building in higher education and in vocational education and training, through Erasmus+ virtual exchanges, and through Jean Monnet actions on EU studies, including relations with Africa and Nigeria. And these programs are fully open to Nigerian institutions and play indeed a key role in preparing them to participate in larger Horizon Europe consortia. So there is like a leverage relationship between Erasmus+ and Horizon Europe. And they also provide essential opportunities for youth, educators, and women in STEM, contributing to inclusive and equitable knowledge partnerships. Last but not least, let's not forget our Youth Mobility for Africa program, which has been supporting African universities into designing mobility schemes of students throughout the continent and providing them with scholarships. And its new and wider version called Study and Research in Africa, soon to be launched, will also provide support to researcher mobility. We understand that EU funding can sometimes appear complex. That's a fact. It's also because these are sizable amounts and it's taxpayers' money. So we are very much scrutinizing how it is spent and making sure that it is spent in an efficient way and, of course, in a way which is fully in line with our regulations and legislation. But this is why we are here. Through this Info Day, our national contact points and cooperation with Nigerian ministries and academic networks, as well as with EU and EURAXESS Africa. We're here to provide technical guidance, matchmaking support, and follow-up opportunities. And we are committed to making Nigerian participation stronger, more visible, and more impactful in the years ahead. So let me close with a simple but I think powerful message. Horizon Europe, including Africa Initiative 3, Erasmus+, study and research in Africa, are not just about funding. They are also about shared vision, shared values, shared responsibility, and shared impact. And in our modern world, that shared impact goes beyond the scientific resource. When we focus together on common challenges, we do more than find solutions, as we build the lasting trust between our peoples and continents that is the true foundation for a sustainable and peaceful future. So my message to all of us, to all the African, Nigerian, and European researchers, innovators, enterprises, educators, and students with us today is you are not observers, you are actors. And the European Union stands with you as your partner, your supporter, and your ally in building a more inclusive, innovative, and sustainable future through education, innovation, and research. So thank you very much to all for your commitment, and I wish you a very productive and inspiring Info Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. So I think we can now give the floor to the representative of Chief Uche Geoffrey Nazi, Dr. Patrick Oguma, for his opening remarks. Dr. Patrick, can you hear us?
Yes, please. Yes. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies. On behalf of the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, I want to express his felicitation to all participants here and to His Excellency, the EU Ambassador, for this wonderful gathering. And we hope to receive, to compare notes and to take some recommendations that will be in this policy direction. That we say most ado, we are very expectant in Nigeria to get some feedback and get the outcome of this wonderful meeting. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Doctor, so much for these kind words. So I think we just proceed with the words of each minister. I think we have now the representative of the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Murafu Olatunji Alausa, who is represented by Dr. Lolade Adeyemi. Dr. Lolade. Dr. Lolade, so maybe we can maybe she or he will join later. Maybe we could give the floor to the representative of the Executive Secretary of TEDFund, Dr. Sonny Ochono, ably represented, sorry, by the Director of Research, Dr. Bakari Girey. Thank you, Bakari, Dr. Bakari, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Leila. Thank you all for inviting the TEDFund for this very, very important event. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund would like to appreciate the European Union generally for this very, very important initiative. TEDFund has been in the forefront in ensuring that universities in particular and academia in Nigeria in general cooperate and fully work with the European Union, especially in the areas of research. In particular, TEDFund has been supporting the building of capacity building for academic staff so that they are able to effectively and compete for these grants. We are very pleased that there is a real focus this time on Nigeria, and I would like to assure you that whatever TEDFund should do to ensure the success of this event, TEDFund is more than willing and able to provide support, ranging from capacity building to real-time cooperation, to providing all the support necessary. I would like to thank you most sincerely for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Executive Secretary, and to assure you that we will be with you all through this Africa Initiative 3 and many more. Thank you so much, Leila, and thank you all for having us. And we'll be on the throughout. If there are any issues that TEDFund needs to come in, we are more than happy to join until throughout this program and even after that. Thank you, Leila, and thank you all of you.
Hello, Leila. I think you are muted.
Yes, sorry, sorry. Yeah, so I was just saying thank you to Dr. Bakari and checking if the representative of the Ministry of Federal Minister of Education was here. And if not, maybe we could ask the chargé d'affaires for Nigeria, embassy to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU to take the floor, Mrs. Faith Ekwekwo, while we wait for the representative of the Minister of Education. Thank you.
So I think if the representative of the Minister of Education is not here. So good day, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. Dear Excellency, Ambassador Gauthier Mignon, head of the EU Delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, representatives of the Federal Government of Nigeria and participants from Nigeria, participants from the European Union Commission, EURAXESS Africa, and Erasmus+, and all of us distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege to welcome you all to this hybrid meeting of the Horizon Europe and Africa Initiative 3, Focus on Nigeria. Your presence and attendance is a reflection of our shared commitments to advancing scientific excellence, mutual learning, and sustainable development through meaningful Africa-Europe collaboration. This initiative represents a dynamic platform that brings together researchers, institutions, and policymakers across continents to foster cooperation in science, technology, and innovation. More importantly, our gathering today resonates with the spirit and substance of the third EU ministerial meeting, where ministers reaffirmed their dedication to a partnership grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and common objectives. They recognized education, research, and innovation as central pillars for achieving inclusive, resilient, and sustainable growth on both continents. The long-standing EU-Nigeria partnership continues to serve as a model of constructive engagement. Through Horizon Europe, Nigerian researchers and institutions are not merely recipients, but active collaborators, accessing new opportunities, contributing expertise, and co-creating impactful knowledge across thematic areas. As we are aware, the Africa Initiative 3 is allocating a huge sum of money across 24 calls for proposals under these thematic pillars: public health, green transition, innovation and technology, capacities for science and cross-cutting issues. For Nigeria, the benefits of this initiative are far-reaching. It bolsters our national research systems, facilitates knowledge exchange, promotes innovation, and deepens our integration into global scientific networks. Most importantly, it empowers researchers, particularly the next generation, to tackle shared challenges through collaborative, inclusive, and forward-looking solutions in areas such as climate change adaptation, clean energy, sustainable agriculture, digital innovation, science for policy, and equitable access to health. As we commence today's event, let us reaffirm our collective resolve to build stronger bridges of trust, knowledge, and innovation. We remain optimistic about the future of this partnership and confident in its potential to deliver real, measurable progress for Nigeria, for Africa, and for Europe. Once again, I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for participating, and I wish us all a fruitful and inspiring exchange. Thank you.
Thank you so much for these words, and I know we have started building a very robust partnership together, and with the strong support of your embassy. So thank you again. I have been told that Dr. Lolade Adeyemi had managed to join us in representing the Honorable Minister of Education. So, Dr. Lolade, if you want to take the floor. We cannot hear you if you're joining. We cannot hear you. Okay, so maybe she will join us a bit later. I had been told that she had managed to join again. So thank you all for this. And we'll now give the floor to Mrs. Nyanke Bisman, the head of International Cooperation for Asia, Pacific, Africa, and the Middle East at our Director General, Research and Innovation, European Commission.
Thank you very much, Leila, and good afternoon to everyone. First of all, good afternoon to Ms. Ekweko, Chargée d'Affaires at Nigeria's embassy in Brussels. I'm very sorry that I couldn't join your premises physically today due to many back-to-back meetings, but I see my colleagues are there, and I'm very happy that this important session today, specifically for Nigeria, could be organized together. So, very good afternoon to all of you, all protocol observed. I'm speaking to you on behalf of the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation, also to welcome you all to this session. You know, by now we're going to present Horizon Europe's Work Program 2025. Horizon Europe is the European Union's research and innovation program that's running over 7 years, almost 100 billion euros. And it's open to collaboration with international partners. Several years ago, we started this Africa initiative. We're already in the 3rd phase now, because it really allows us to strengthen cooperation between researchers, innovators from the European Union and Africa, and in this particular case, Nigeria. And we see that the results are quite impressive. I will give you some numbers later on. Indeed, Nigeria is an important partner to the European Union. In 2020, as part of the 7th ministerial, we decided indeed that we could do more. We could collaborate better, especially in the area of research and innovation. Because both sides believe that by investing in research and innovation and by collaborating together, this will in the long run have an important impact on sustainable socio-economic development on both sides. So we define together a roadmap with specific interventions that would allow us to do so. And one of the objectives or one of the priorities in this roadmap was specifically focusing on enhancing Nigeria's participation in Horizon Europe through strengthened support to researchers' mobility and through the promotion of our innovation ecosystems. So with this ambition in mind, we have done quite a lot of work over the last years, and we covered a lot of ground. First of all, I would like to note that Nigeria and Nigerian institutions have been very actively involved in the conceptualization of the 10-year African Union European Innovation Agenda, which was adopted almost 2 years ago now. And the purpose of this agenda really was to focus more on getting research results to the market, translating these in products, businesses, and jobs. And on the way forward, we very much count on Nigeria's continued commitment to contribute to the implementation of this agenda. Several important events are coming up at the end of this year in October. Nigeria and its ministries have also put a great effort to accrue the country's participation in Horizon Europe, both quantitatively but also qualitatively. In this respect, I salute Nigeria's establishment of a very large and robust network of Horizon Europe national contact points, accounting up to 65. That's really remarkable, renowned academic and scientific experts across all different fields. And this NCP network was officially launched in February 2023, also during one of our information sessions, and has since undergone an extensive training in close collaboration with the EU delegation in Nigeria. Nigeria's participation in Horizon Europe is also quite promising, especially if we compare it to the predecessor program of Horizon Europe, which was called Horizon 2020. For example, Nigeria has already secured more granted projects in comparison to the previous one, so 44 now and 37 in the past program, yes. And Nigeria's participation in Horizon Europe are 57, so 57 different participants, whilst it was 52 in Horizon 2020. And the current program isn't finished yet. We still have 3 years to go, 3 years of work programs ahead of us. So Nigeria's institutions are benefiting from 16.5 million euros budget of net EU contribution as part of Horizon Europe, which is already 3 times the budget received in the previous program, Horizon 2020, which was 4.8 million euros. So very good achievements. But of course, we can always do more. And this is why we're here today. Indeed, Nigeria's average success rate in the program is around 15%, which is below the EU average, which is 19%. I mean, this shows that it's a very competitive program. And in general, also for EU researchers, the success rate is rather low, only 19%. But Nigeria is really growing there. And Nigeria is at the moment ranks 7th among all the African countries for granted projects in the program. We also need to ensure more institutions, universities, research centers, and companies across Nigeria, from north to south, east to west, participate in the program to collaborate with European partners. And we would like to attain a stronger participation by Nigeria's private sector, startups, SMEs, and business support organizations in our research and innovation activities. So that's why we're gathering today, to share information on the opportunities in the 2025 work program under the Africa Initiative 3. My colleagues will explain what it means, what are these 24 calls for proposals, what money is available in what areas, such as public health, food security, always in areas that we have defined together as being priorities for the collaboration. As you will also see, the earliest deadlines for proposal submission are set for early September. So you have a bit of time ahead to prepare your consortia, to find your partners, to write and shape the proposals and make compelling submissions. But we will obviously not leave you alone in this process, as you will also hear today. You can rely on the continuous support provided by, of course, the strong Nigerian network of Horizon Europe national contact points, effectively coordinated by Professor Michael Fabarode, and the team of the EU delegation to Nigeria, of course, and ECOWAS, EURAXESS Africa, that's helping us today as well to organize this information session. And of course, Nigeria's federal ministries of innovation, science, technology, education, communications, innovation, and digital economy. And you can also count on us in Brussels, the European Commission. So I'm getting to the end of what I wanted to share with you. Allow me as a last point to underscore that what we have been able to achieve over the past few years is really rather remarkable. What we hold together is special and politically meaningful to the overall partnership between the EU and Nigeria. Special as proven by the vibrancy and the dynamism of the first edition of the Nigeria EU Innovation Days in July 2024, last year in Lagos. And this will be replicated by a bigger event in the first week of December, again in partnership with Lagos State. And secondly, further evidence of the political significance of our cooperation is given by the fact that last year we decided to jointly to embark on a process that hopefully will lead us to the start of negotiations of a bilateral Nigeria-EU science and technology agreement soon. We're getting already on our side to do this. So with these positive perspectives ahead of us, I wish you a very productive workshop. And yeah, I will be following the results also very, very closely. It's really great to see this progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nyenke. And indeed, yes, I left the door open. I did not announce this STI agreement that we are hopefully launching the negotiation of. But thank you for mentioning it. And maybe we will have time later to discuss this. But as you know, this is a pact. It's already, the agenda is super packed, and we're here to give the maximum information to Nigerian researchers and institutions, but also I think scientists from all across Africa are currently joining us. So maybe we'll just focus on this. Unfortunately, I got the contact of Dr. Lolade, but we are trying to solve a technical issue for her. So probably we'll invite her to speak at the end of this event. Thank you so much. And I hope also my co-moderator has been able to join us. As I'm not supposed to be doing that alone. I mean, I did not even know I was supposed to be doing it until very late, but it's always a pleasure to speak on such topics. It's something I'm very fond of. Thank you again. And maybe we could go into the meat of the matter and give the floor to Vincenzo, Dr. Vincenzo Lorusso. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Leila and colleagues. Can you hear us okay? Right.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen in a second. And then as you can see that. It's coming up, I believe. Okay. Put some more kickdowns of the meeting. Trying to share my screen again. Hopefully it will work. Actually, just to avoid issues, I'm going to share a PDF version. Just a second. I think so. Yeah, waiting for the presentation to load on my computer. Just a second, please bear with us. But Fana, can I ask you to, in the interest of time, can I ask you to share the slides I sent you, Fana?
Yes,
the presentation.
Okay.
Please, yeah. And then I'll present like this. And apologies. We can wait for my computer to respond. Yes, please. I will send you next slide in the interest of time. You can put it in presentation mode. Yes, please. Maybe just go back for a second to the first one. All right, so thank you very much and apologies. I want to start by indeed conveying my greetings and my regards to colleagues here at the Embassy of Nigeria to Brussels. Ambassador Mignon, thank you for being with us. It is for us a very powerful message that we're giving of being hosted in person on site in this embassy in Brussels. Indeed, as Ambassador was saying, we are somehow in Nigeria while being in Brussels, and perhaps without somehow either. And I also wish to thank Excellency Chargé d'Affaires for having been so much interested about indeed getting to know what was happening in the cooperation of science, technology, innovation since we met last year. And of course, sky's the limit in this cooperation that is very much forward-looking, as Ambassador was referring to earlier on. So thank you very much to all the researchers and innovators and the academics and the entrepreneurs from Nigeria, and also not from Nigeria, who cooperate with Nigeria from Europe and elsewhere in Africa. Thank you for being with us. This presentation will hopefully help you familiarize with Horizon Europe Work Programme 2025 and its Africa Initiative 3. It's called Africa Initiative 3 because indeed it's the third time we're trying this endeavor, and this time we try to bring this to the next level in the sense that we increase the budget that is attached to the calls for proposals, and therefore it means that more ambitious projects will be supported through this Africa Initiative 3. We will start by providing some policy background, hopefully explaining why we're doing this politically speaking. And indeed, Horizon Europe and the Africa Initiative are an important instrument for which we implement our policy of cooperation between Africa and Europe for research and innovation. And from there, allow me also to share some updates on the latest figures of Nigeria's participation in Horizon Europe so far. I trust many of the stakeholders, the researchers, the innovators, the entrepreneurs who are already a part of Horizon Europe projects from Nigeria and from collaborating countries are attending this webinar today. And thank you for being with us. Thank you also for advertising, for supporting us in advertising this event. And last but not least, we finally will get into the calls for proposals, part of this Africa Initiative 3, as we will use the next 25 minutes approximately. So thank you, Fana. The policy context in which we are operating is the one of first of all, a multilateral cooperation between the African Union and the European Union on research and innovation. This year, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the institutional partnership between our two unions, the African Union and the European Union. Within that, we're also celebrating the 15th year anniversary of the specific cooperation, multilaterally speaking, between the African Union and the European Union on science, technology, and innovation, which is governed under the aegis of the so-called high-level policy dialogue on science, technology, and innovation, which was established in 2010 in Tripoli. And from the EU side, because of course I'm here representing the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation, there are two communications that are indeed key in this cooperation for the European Union. The number one is towards a comprehensive strategy with Africa, which indeed, as you can see from the slide, it's in here, really proposes to scale up cooperation between research institutions and indeed universities and academia, and also the global approach for research and innovation. The global approach for research and innovation, which is a publication of the year 2021, aims for specific openness vis-à-vis African countries that wish to thrive as knowledge-based economies. And that's something that indeed we will hear in the course of the presentation. It's something that drives as a rationale the openness of Horizon Europe towards international cooperation and particularly towards African countries. Now, when it comes to the multilateral dialogue, the AU-EU high-level policy dialogue on science, technology, innovation, of which, of course, Nigeria is a component, is a member, is a player. This multilateral dialogue led to the first ever, and only so far, ministerial meeting of AU and EU ministers of research and innovation, which took place virtually in July 2020. There were two main achievements that came out of this meeting at the time. I read it somewhere in the chat. What are the priority areas of this cooperation on research and innovation? You see them in the bottom of this slide. They are, of course, a macro level, and we will go into the details of this area. One of them is public health. The other is green transition. Green transition encompassing the two sub-areas of climate change and sustainable energy, and food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture. The other one is innovation and technology. And the fourth one is capacities for science, linked to capacity building, support to researchers' mobility, and beyond. The second achievement of this ministerial meeting of July 2020 was the conceptualization, the conceivement of, for the first time ever, of the so-called EU Innovation Agenda. The EU Innovation Agenda, which was then politically adopted in July 2023, stems for the realization that although a lot of joint research, a lot of collaborative research has been done over the past decade and more, Africa and Europe, we can do more to foster the actual translation of that research and innovation into more tangible products, businesses, jobs, services, employment opportunities really in both Africa and Europe. And with this ambition, this is how this multilateral dialogue embarked into the conception of this agenda, which was prepared by a dedicated working group that we call the Africa-Europe Innovation Agenda Working Group, which led into the publication of a draft version of this agenda in February 2022 during the week of the 6th EU-AU summit that took place in Brussels at the time. And then the entire year 2022 was dedicated to the stakeholder dialogue to really share this draft version of this agenda that was prepared by this dedicated working group, of course, with the support of an independent advisory group of R&I, research and innovation experts, really sharing it with the stakeholder community. And I wish to acknowledge that Nigeria played a major role in this endeavor, in the sense that several institutions, for example, TED Fund, Federal Ministry of Education, but also the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, played a major role into providing input and feedback onto the draft version of the agenda. And basically those input and feedback were reflected then in the final version of the agenda that was politically adopted in July 2023. What does this agenda convey as a message? And of course, you can find it online. You will have a copy of this presentation with all the hyperlinks that will take you to all the resources that are mentioned. There are 4 objectives. You see them in here: make it real, generate impact by design, strengthen people, institutions, learn, monitor, and scale it up. And then actions that are short-term, medium-term, and long-term, that are articulated according to the priority areas that I mentioned earlier on: public health, green transition, innovation and technology, capacities for science, and cross-cutting issues. So cross-cutting issues is the area that indeed we felt was rather overarching and therefore hard to include in one of the 4 aforementioned ones. These objectives and actions really stem from the mapping that we carried out on the gaps and needs of the R&I research and innovation ecosystems in both Africa and Europe. But now this agenda being adopted in July 2023, it means that it undergoes an implementation for 10 years. So from July 2023 until end of 2033. And of course, to implement a policy, we need the instruments that go with that. We need the funding that go with that. And of course, this is also beyond the funding indeed. From the EU side, the 2 main instruments for which we are implementing this EU Innovation Agenda, you see them in the bottom of this slide, are the Global Gateway Africa Europe Investment Package, as well as Horizon Europe indeed. And Horizon Europe has dedicated initiatives that are targeting cooperation between Africa and Europe, the Africa initiatives indeed, of which we are now will be presenting very soon the 3rd edition, but also the Mediterranean initiative that supports research and innovation cooperation between Southern Europe, well, Europe in general, but also with Northern Africa and the Mediterranean basin. International cooperation, research and innovation from the EU side is therefore very much about commitment to openness, supporting shared values and principles, Ambassador Mignon referred to this earlier on, pursuit of a level playing field and reciprocity, and pooling global efforts to tackle global challenges to reap mutual benefits. Next slide, please. So Horizon Europe was mentioned earlier on also by my head of unit, Ms. Boisman, is the biggest public funding instrument to support research and innovation, globally speaking. We're talking about a framework program that consists of approximately 100 billion euros, so 95.5, that are then articulated into a 7-year timeframe from 2021 and 2027. And within this 7-year timeframe, the framework program is organized in work programs. So we started with work program 2021-2022. We then move on to work program 23-24. This one is work program 2025. So the present one is a work program dedicated to only 1 year and will be followed by work program 26-27. Next slide, please. You will hear several presentations around the opportunities that are indeed available for researchers, innovators, entrepreneurs, even postgraduate students as part of Horizon Europe. My presentation will focus on Pillar 2. You see this highlighted here. And Pillar 2 is the one that indeed is articulated in calls for proposals that are organized according to thematic clusters. You see Cluster 1, Health, Cluster 2, Culture, Creativity, and Inclusive Society, Cluster 3, Civil Security for Society, 4, Digital, and so on and so forth. I believe that those of you already taken part in proposals filing and hopefully in succeeding with proposals and grant application and grant applications are already familiar with these clusters. But bear in mind that there are also opportunities for you that will be presented today as part of Pillar 1. For example, the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which support indeed researchers' mobility. We will have a dedicated presentation by a colleague later on. Just bear in mind that this comes from Pillar 1 of Horizon Europe, whereas Pillar 2 is the one of calls for proposals. Next slide, please. We move on, please. We can go to the next one. So you may have heard that some countries are associated to Horizon Europe, the framework program. When it comes to African countries, only one country is currently associated to Horizon Europe, and that is Tunisia. There are 2 that are in the process of association. They are Egypt and Morocco. Associated countries are those that fund the mechanisms to the big budget envelope of Horizon Europe proposals, of course, based on shared interest and shared priorities. This doesn't mean that if countries are not associated with the framework program, the institutions, the organizations coming from these countries cannot benefit from funding. Next slide, please. And in fact, I wish to highlight that all African countries are indeed eligible for funding under the framework program Horizon Europe. So that's the main takeaway that I wish to share. And I also wish to share that Nigeria-based institutions, not only are they accessible to fund, are they indeed eligible for funding, but they can also coordinate research and innovation projects, such as is the case for some of the organizations based in Nigeria, for some of the Horizon projects that have been granted so far. And I will mention a few later on. Next slide, please. Of course, the international cooperation dimension is very important in Horizon Europe. At the moment, approximately 35 to 40% of the calls for proposals are those that are encouraging specifically international cooperation. These are the calls, of course, where there's a shared strategic interest when it comes to indeed joining forces across the borders, across unions, and really tackle common challenges to reap mutual benefits. So it's very important that the existence of a multilateral driver when it comes to the policy dialogue between the African Union and the European Union. And in the case of what we're doing with the Africa Initiative, the EU Innovation Agenda, and the need for implementing the short and medium-term actions that are now under implementation. Next slide, please. Indeed, when not only approximately 35% of the calls are open for international cooperation, we then try to boost certain types of cooperations, for example, the one between Africa and Europe, or the one between Europe and the Mediterranean basin and Northern Africa and the Middle East, through dedicated initiatives, such as indeed the Africa Initiative, now on the 3rd cycle, and the Mediterranean Initiative for the latter. Next slide, please. Let us now see how is Nigeria performing when it comes to Horizon Europe. Next slide. Before we do that, indeed, echoing the words of Ninja Boysman, we are also monitoring very closely the performance of African organizations, the participation of African organizations in the framework program, generally speaking. Not only the participation in terms of numbers, but also in terms of budget that is now being allocated to Africa-based institutions. And now, when it comes to the overall participation, we see that on an average, a yearly basis, we've seen at least 60% of increased participation of African institutions within the framework program Horizon Europe. When it comes to the budget, so far in Horizon Europe, so meaning in the first 3.5 to 4 years, we've seen approximately 40% of increase of budget being allocated to Africa-based institutions compared to the funding that was allocated to institutions in Horizon 2020. Horizon 2020 is the predecessor framework program that was indeed that took place between 2014 and 2021. But of course, these are quantitative data, and we need to go beyond that. We need to understand how are we doing when it comes to ensuring a widespread participation of institutions, including research organizations, in the case of a vast country like Nigeria, from east to west. Next slide, please. And we're also monitoring the performance of countries within Africa when it comes to the overall participation in Horizon. So here we see that Nigeria is overall doing better in Horizon Europe, and Horizon Europe is not finished yet, compared to Horizon 2020. So, for example, Nigeria has already secured 39 projects. You see here there's an asterisk, so 37 proposals were granted, and 2 are in the process of being finalized in terms of granting. So 39 projects have been secured by Nigeria, which already outnumbers what I believe is 23, the number of projects that were, I'm a bit far from the slide, apologies, the number of projects that were granted in the 7-year framework program of Horizon 2020. Nigeria is, as you can see, ranked amongst African countries as number 8. So number 7. Of course, it's not bad, and it's better than what was the ranking in Horizon 2020. But allow me to say, let us look at countries that are not so far from Nigeria, that are not of the same size, also population-wise. We believe that Nigeria can do better. Even with 39, that is still better than 37, we're still rather far compared to the 54 secured projects granted that have been secured by Ghana. Of course, the success rate is an important element to take into account. Nigeria has 15% as average success rate, which is still rather below the average EU rate of 19%. So there we can also improve. Next slide, please. This is the ranking of Nigeria among overall non-EU third countries. And overall, indeed, Nigeria is not doing badly at all. We see it's 9th for budget and 20th for participation amongst non-associated third countries. Here, there's also room to really improve and room for leveraging the potential of Nigeria, especially if you consider that indeed there are other African countries that are not so far ahead of Nigeria, that have, in some cases, a smaller population and indeed smaller infrastructures when it comes to research and innovation, and a smaller number of higher education and research institutions. So this is something we monitor very regularly, also to take into account while we devise the initiatives, and of course in our dialogue with our partners bilaterally. Next slide, please. So that's the overview of the figures concerning Nigeria. We mentioned this before, 16.5 million euros being allocated to Nigeria so far, which is more than 3 times than the budget that was allocated of 4.8 million euros allocated to Nigeria in Horizon 2020. So already in approximately 3.5 years, Nigeria is going well beyond what was done in Horizon 2020. 39 projects secured, 57 participations, 35 of which are unique participation, meaning that more, in some cases, one institution, one research organization from Nigeria is involved in more than a project, which is also a good thing. But of course, we need to make sure that 35 reaches a larger number. Where Nigeria is also perhaps lagging behind, we can also increase the number of participations in managed cluster reactions for mobility of researchers that you see in the bottom half of this slide, 5 participations so far. Next slide, please. This is the overall trend of Nigeria's participation in what we call the framework program, which again, as a reminder, is organized in a 7-year timeframe. It's quite clear that Horizon Europe really marks a significant increase of Nigeria's participation in the framework program compared to the past editions. We are not done with the 7-year period, so we can only see this number increasing for the next 3 years, but at least for Work Program 25 and Work Program 26, 27. And when it comes to the budget, I think the bars are quite clearly speaking. Next slide, please. The thematic areas in which Nigeria is participating the most, I believe, are reflecting quite clearly the priority of the country. Health, certainly, you see a lot of projects being funded in the area of health. but also food, bioeconomy, and agriculture, and food security. It's the so-called cluster 6, followed by also a clear energy and mobility, and at the same time also creativity and culture, which is social sciences and humanities, which are also important when it comes to our cooperation. Then followed by Marie-Sklodska creations, mobility of scientists. Next slide, please. So we have a jargon within Horizon Europe based on the so-called technology readiness level, the TRL, of the calls for proposals. You will see that certain projects are known under the acronym of Coordination and Support Actions, CSA. These are projects which are more about setting up networks and supporting, facilitating implementation of certain research and innovation activities. Then we have the so-called RIA, Research and Innovation Actions, which are projects that have different degrees of research and innovation maturity. Some of them are earlier stage, and certainly are earlier stage compared to the so-called IA, the innovation actions, which have a technology readiness level, which is of at least 5. Marie-Sklodska actions are known under the acronym of MCSA. And what you see here under the acronym of JURIA are the so-called joint undertaking research and innovation action that are part of the European and Developing Countries Clinical Trial Partnership 3 joint undertaking, in which Nigeria is performing quite well indeed. These are later stage public health clinical trials oriented projects in which Nigerian institutions are really having an increasing role. What you can see from this graph here, the vast majority of projects in which that are granted in Nigeria, I would say more than 50% clearly, are research and innovation actions with RIA, with a variable degree of technology readiness level, which I think somehow also reflects the diversity of thematic areas in which the collaborative research is being done, from social sciences, humanities to health, food security and agriculture, climate and energy. Next slide, please. And that's an overview, and apologies for the projects that I did not manage to fit within this slide. These are just the top 15 projects from a budgetary point of view in which Nigerian institutions are involved. I would like to say that this slide is certainly not about the funding. You can see there are several projects with budget that is beyond 1 million overall. From the Africa Initiative 3, we will see that there will be projects with more than 1 million as an overall budget. What is important to consider is that the thematic areas are very much the areas in which Nigeria is performing the most. So health, food and nutrition security, bioeconomy, and so on and so forth. What I'd also like to highlight is the fact that you see that in the vast majority of these projects, there's more than one Nigeria participation within the consortia. So the calls for proposals are responded to by project consortia. And the good news is that indeed within the same consortium, for the same project, there could be more than one Nigerian institution. And that's actually what we also want to promote with the Africa Initiative 3, not only cooperation between Africa and Europe, but also cooperation domestically, enhanced cooperation across different institutions within the country, including the private sector, and also intra-Africa cooperation between Nigeria, Burkina Faso, just to make an example of referring to something that I read in the chart, but also countries that are not necessarily mainly English speaking, so to say. There's also an example that I would like to refer to, is the one of the fair food and trade systems for Africa through food convergence innovation, in which not only do we see 3 participations from Nigeria, but one of them is also the coordinating institution, that is the Institute of Tropical Agriculture, that is based in Ibadan. Next slide, please. When it comes to the participations, at least 50% of them in Nigeria come from both research organizations and universities, higher education and research institutions. Next slide, please. The funding that goes to these 2 types of organizations, research organizations, approximately is 50%, with more than 15, approximately 20%. So 50% and 19%. So overall, approximately 70% of the funding goes to the organizations that are participating in the 50% of the project. So research institutions and universities. Approximately 15% goes to the public sector, purely public agencies, and the rest to the private sector. Next slide, please, and civil society. That's an overview of the Nigeria entities in the Horizon Europe so far. So I believe Perhaps if you are part of these organizations, you may want to write it in the chat, so at least for us to know, or maybe mention the name of your organization. That would be interesting. We warmly greet all the organizations that are in this slide. You can see that one organization can participate in more than a project, and this is why we see multiple participations. And then, of course, you see what does this correspond to when it comes to funding. We want to be as inclusive as we can, and we therefore also greet the institutions that are not yet on this slide. When we meet again next year to present, hopefully, the Africa Initiative 4, we would like to have many more organizations here represented. And I'm referring not only to higher education or research institutions, but also to the private sectors, the SMEs, and to civil society organizations. Bear in mind that civil society organizations, NGOs, are indeed eligible for the Africa Initiative 3 projects, and generally in EURAXESS. Next slide, please. Indeed, Nigeria is participating in the framework program through its several SMEs. I warmly greet all the stakeholders from these private sector entities that we've seen here. We don't see many yet, so indeed we can only encourage more diversity and more participation. I also wish to acknowledge that some of these private sector entities that we see in the slide are very much involved in further sensitizing and further supporting and enhancing capacity when it comes to project proposals, and in generally speaking, filing proposals application for Horizon Europe. So that's extremely important. So approximately so far we see close to €1 million of funding is going to million of euros is going to SMEs based in Nigeria. Next slide, please. And so what are the most frequent collaborators, internationally speaking, of Nigeria? You can see that the top, I believe, the top 6 countries are from Europe, in the spirit of, indeed, of Africa-Europe cooperation. I'm disappointed to see my Italy just on ranking 4, but maybe things will improve in the future. Interestingly enough, we need to wait for Kenya, the 7th international partner, to have a first African partner within the consortia. And this is followed by South Africa, as you can see. Then amongst African countries, we see Uganda and Ghana. Not surprisingly, all these African countries that I mentioned, Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, and Uganda, are well performing in the overall Horizon Europe performance. And I believe they are all ahead of Nigeria, not surprisingly. So it's also important for us to look at this dynamic, but also to spend some time to highlight collaborations that may not be as necessarily as straightforward or commonplaces for us to think. For example, myself, while preparing this presentation, I was struck by the number of projects in which Cyprus and Nigeria are cooperating, including projects in which Cyprus-based entity in the area of food security and One Health, Cypriot institutions are coordinated. So I think that's a very important example of people-to-people diplomacy and cooperation that through Horizon we can further amplify. And indeed, let me stress out the fact that we have countries such as Senegal, countries that are not necessarily rich, of course, within the West Africa region in the case of Senegal, but also we see Rwanda from the East Africa region, and so on and so forth. Apologies here, I could only mention the top 30 countries just for limitation of spaces. And there's also Latin American countries, as you can see. So now let's move to the African Initiative 3, and I'll bring it to an end in 10 minutes. So here we have the new 24 calls for proposals that are indeed grouped in this priority area you've seen here: public health, 50 million, green transition, 241 million euros, innovation and technology, capacities for science, and cross-cutting issues. So here we're talking about 24 calls for proposals that are particularly encouraging or requiring participation of African countries, or even, generally speaking, promoting international cooperation. Once you will have this presentation, just by clicking on the link here of the EU Funding and Tenders portal, you'll be directed to the page where these 24 calls for proposals are. So you'll be directed to a page where the calls that are part of the African Initiative are particularly flagged. Next slide, please. The first call is indeed in the area of public health. Please check the deadline here. It's the middle of September. It's about development of antibodies and antibody-based treatments for prevention of, basically for improving epidemic preparedness in a nutshell. This topic is very complementary to the later stage calls for proposals that we then support through the Global Health European and Developing Countries Clinical Trial Partnership joint undertaking. So for those of you working in the space of infectious diseases and epidemic preparedness, please have a thorough look at this option. It's a research and innovation action, and therefore there's a certain degree of early stage in the research. Next slide, please. And projects will be supported with up to 10 million euros for each project, with approximately 5 projects being funded. The next slide is about climate change and sustainable energy. There's several calls for proposals in the area. You see the topic title here, which is rather self-explanatory. We haven't got the time to go into much of the details. I will just read some of the keywords. For example, fostering equity and justice in climate policies, or sustainable processing and refining of raw materials to produce battery-grade materials, building of a long-term African Union, European Union research and innovation collaboration on sustainable renewable energies, implementing the climate action pillar of the EU-Africa Union Partnership on Climate Change and Sustainable Energy, and innovative solutions for resilient and climate-adapted coastal communities. The budget that goes into projects that are funded here, as you can see, it's quite conspicuous. So you can see that up to 5 million euros per grant in the case of the first calls for proposals, and up to 10 million euros per grant in the case of the second on sustainable processing and refining of raw materials. Please bear in mind also the initials that we put in the bottom of the first column. When you see a R, it means that indeed participation of African entities is required, and therefore it's not just encouraged. We need to have indeed African entities that are part of the research consortia. In certain cases, there are restrictions to certain countries, as you can see in the case of the bottom call, Cape Verde, Ghana, Morocco, Senegal, and South Africa, because of the Alliance on All Atlantic Research Initiative. Next slide, please. We then move to food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture. And as you can see here, we have 3 R's for the topics. So for the calls for proposals, meaning that participation of African entities is required, is not just encouraged. I will just read quickly through the titles. Supporting food and nutrition security and sustainable agricultural partnership, the first one. Nutrition in emergency situations. Developing innovative phytosanitary measures for plant health. Focusing on systems approach for pest risk management. Developing agroecology, living labs and lighthouses for climate actions. And broadening the living labs approach for soil health in Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean. I believe that many institutions that are attending today's workshop are interested in this topic. So please do consider indeed putting together a consortium or being part of a project consortia, because indeed there's quite an opportunity. You see that the deadlines for the majority of them, for 3 out of 5 of these proposals, calls for proposals, is mid-September. And for 2 of them, and there are 2 stages, so basically there's 2 steps of proposals to be submitted. The first stage is on the beginning of September. The second stage is in February next year. Next slide, please. Still in green transition, we are in water security space, and there's 3 calls in this space. So activity to support indeed water security for the planet. In this case, it's rather open to international cooperation, but African entities can indeed be part of this. Overcoming the barriers of scaling up circular water management in agriculture. So this is really at the interface between water security and agriculture. Here, participation from Africa is encouraged. And additional activity for the European Biodiversity Partnership, Biodiversa Plus, with different funding to be cascaded in the 3 years following, 2025, 2026, and 2027. Deadlines is mid-September for the 3 of them. Next slide, please. Amongst cross-cutting issues, we have the important cross-cutting issue that, of course, is of extreme relevance to Nigeria and to the Nigeria-EU partnership, is the one of climate and migration. So here you see 2 million euros overall budget. This is a coordination and support action in which participation of African entities is encouraged. And it's a coordination and support action in the sense that this project is indeed about facilitating links across institutions, organizations, and different sectors. Deadline mid-September. Next slide, please. In another cross-sectoral area of innovation and technology, we have a specific calls on EU co-funded partnership for raw materials for the green and digital transition. In this case, it's a conspicuous amount of funding that is then cascaded into 2 years, 2025 and 2027. The deadline is indeed 3rd week of September this year. Next slide, please. 5 additional calls, and we are reaching almost the end. They are in the area of innovation technology, and therefore, as such, they are really cross-sectoral. An open topic testing for validating tools, technologies, and data used in cross-border prevention and preparedness and response to climate extreme and geological events. So this is really about climate catastrophes and emergencies, technologies for critical raw materials and strategic raw materials from and end-of-life products, strategic partnerships for raw materials, innovative approaches for sustainable production of critical raw materials, and then innovative solutions for the sustainable value chain and production of semiconductor raw materials, and generative artificial intelligence for Africa. Of course, artificial intelligence being an important cross-cutting issue within Africa and also the interface of Africa-Europe cooperation. This is one of the topics. In here, you see that the deadlines for proposal submissions vary between November, September, and beginning of October for Gen AI. Next slide, please. And I believe this is the last one. In capacities for science and cross-cutting issues, we have social sciences and humanities that are reflected particularly in a specific calls on bridging historical past and future potential through conservation, preservation, and adaptive use of Europe's contentious and dissonant heritage. In this case, participation of African institutions is encouraged. The overall budget is 3.5 million euros, and the deadline is mid-September. Next slide, please. Cross-cutting issues. We have two additional topics, one on improving disaster risk management and governance to ensure self-sufficiency and sustainability of operations in support of enhanced resilience. So this is really an interface of communities and environment and planetary health. Deadline is November, so a later one. And then open strategic autonomy, economic and research security in EU foreign policy, in which there's also, of course, inevitably a big international cooperation dimension. The deadline is mid-September. Next slide, please. We haven't got the time to go into the details, but you familiarize also with the fact that within the Africa-Europe Cooperation, Research and Innovation, we have broad partnerships to which, of course, these projects contribute in the terms of implementation. The one of public health that I mentioned earlier on, and the one of green transition with food security and climate change and sustainable energy. Next. We can also carry on. Next one, please. You will hear about the Maris cross-cutting reactions, which are really the researchers' mobility and training flagships on the EU side to support mobility across the two continents. Next slide, please. The next presentation will be about this. And so this particular event today is part of a series of events where we're trying to really enhance the cooperation and strengthen the cooperation of research and innovation through them between Africa and Europe. You will be able to watch the recording of this presentation on the YouTube channel of EURAXESS Africa. We will share the link in the chat as soon as I'm done. But keep on watching our space. Keep on watching the EURAXESS Africa webpage. You will also have a presentation on this because it's really an information conveyor, an information container on opportunities available for African and European researchers. But at the same time, keep on watching the Africa-Europe Innovation Interface, the EU Innovation Interface, where we advertised all the initiatives pertaining to the implementation of the innovation agenda, including the 23rd of October Innovation Fair, for which we will have an expression of interest for startups, business support organizations, researchers, and innovators coming up very soon by the end of June. Next slide, please. And this is also the series of resources that you can find, where you can find information about all we do. Again, you will receive this presentation as a PDF, which will be uploaded. It will be uploaded on the webpage of today's event. With that, I'll stop here and thank you very much for bearing with me. Thank you.
Okay. Leila, over to you. Well, I guess we have to thank Vincenzo for that very insightful and fully packed, informative session. I'm sure many of the participants are very happy at what they've heard. So this is exactly why we are here, so that we can get properly informed of this very big initiative, African 3, and he has done justice to that. And I'm very happy that he has been able to illustrate the changes that we've witnessed in Nigeria, even though we are not where we want to be yet. 15–16%, just barely okay, but at least he has provided information to share some of us up, so that we know that these awards are possible and we just need to work at it. Thank you very much, Senso, for that insightful presentation. Leila, we need to take some questions.
Yes. Thank you, Prof. I'm sorry, but my connection, I was dropped out of the Zoom link. So now maybe, yeah, you guessed as much. I asked you to take the floor in case it happened. Yeah. So I moved to another office. So thank you again, Vincenzo, and maybe that's the time to take some questions. I had seen one myself before I had to move out of the office. So I don't know, Mike, if you had found some. I saw someone asking at first if Nigerian researchers were eligible for direct funding, or should they always apply or collaborate with European researchers. That's the first one I.
You are muted now. You need to unmute, Leila.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to look at the questions that we had. Yes, of course, we will share the presentations. I had, so the first question, I think you heard me about the first question, do Nigerian researchers, are they eligible for direct funding, or should we always collaborate with researchers from Europe? The second question I can read here is who can lead a consortium? Must the organization be a legal entity in Africa? And also a question as regards new NGOs, and again a question on are individual researchers eligible? And the last one is something we are trying to address from the EU delegation in Abuja, is how do one get partners in Europe? But maybe, Vincenzo, you can start with these three, and then we can take more. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Leila, and thanks a lot to those participants who are with us. I see we are more than 700. Thank you for your questions. Indeed, do not hesitate to reach further to us, and you will have further clarity in the next presentations. So for Horizon Europe, the calls for proposals need to be responded by project consortia. So Nigerian institutions, whether an SME or a university group or a research institutions, they need to be part of this consortia. So they need to team up with other partners. And of course, you need to have a thorough look at the eligibility criteria of each and every call for proposals that you find in the funding and tenders portal. I believe there's a minimum number indeed of institutions that will need to be now in a proposal. You will hear more about these details from Fana in the presentation by EURAXESS. But Nigerian institutions can be more than one, and therefore there could be several of them in partnership with European ones. At least, I believe, at least 3 entities of which need to be coming, at least one from Europe, from the EU, and another one from an associated member. What is important to keep in mind that individuals are not eligible for funding coming from Horizon Europe. You will hear more about other opportunities coming from the EU funding in the next presentations, including Erasmus and so on and so forth. But for Horizon Europe projects, this is a collective endeavor with research and innovation institutions partnering together. Also keep in mind that indeed institutions that are part of a project consortium can benefit from funding, but some of them may be part of a consortium without necessarily be receiving funding. That's an opportunity also through which an institution can learn how to indeed be part of a Horizon Europe project, how to file in a proposal, and so on and so forth. I saw some comments also, we're not really informed about these EU projects. Well, you're in the right place then, because this is the start of a journey. You will hear about many resources through which you can keep yourself up to date on what we do. Are NGOs eligible? Yes. Civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations are eligible to receive indeed funding to be part of Horizon Europe consortia, as much as the SMEs, as much as the private sector. So this is not just something for university groups or for research institutions. You will also find on the funding and tenders portals, and Fana will share this in his presentation, there's also a Find Your Partners tool through which you can post an announcement really and express your interest in a given call for proposal, and you will be contacted by those who are as interested as you, who may not necessarily have partners there. So while you go there, you can post your message, but you also can read the messages that were posted by other institutions and contact them accordingly. And yes, the recording will be made available on YouTube, on the YouTube channel of EURAXESS Africa. We will share the link in the chat. Lela, I see there's a participant asking for he or she can raise, or he can raise a question.
There are more questions on the Q&A. Somebody wants to know if private universities can benefit from EU Africa or doesn't. Can applications be submitted directly or through? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, can you hear me now? I think I had the connection issues again.
Yes, you can.
Yes, so I did not hear everything. I don't know if you managed to answer all the questions that we had. In any case, we will share everything, all the presentations that are made today. I saw very specific ones, such as Nigerian polytechnics, can they apply or lead? I mean, of course, there are higher education institutions. They should be able, and all. I don't know if you answered all these questions. I see a lot of questions around the topic of finding partners, and that's why, as you'll hear a bit later during this session, we will give you some information. Vincenzo, did you manage to cover all the questions already?
Yes, and I will continue in the chat.
Yeah.
Logging in.
Don't stop.
Thank you. So, Mike, if you want to take over, thank you, Prof. Faborode. So, I guess you introduce yourself. So, Prof, former Vice Chancellor of Bafemi Awolowo University at IFE, is the coordinator of Horizon Europe network in Nigeria. And so I leave you, Prof, please go ahead and start moderating.
Thank you, Leila, for holding the fourth thing, because I couldn't be properly connected as a moderator, but now I'm on. And I want to thank Vincenzo again for that presentation. You see the spirit of questions, very many. We are going to compile some of the questions and provide answers and link up with participants through their emails. But we want to move on now, and we go to the next phase, which is about the research mobility items, the MSCA program, EURAXESS Africa, and Erasmus. I hope that Ms. Dora Sifa is able to join us now. She sent a mail that she had technical difficulties. But if she's here, she can take the floor now. Otherwise, we'll call on Dr. Ahmed of EURAXESS. Hello, Dora. Are you connected at last?
Hello, Professor Faborode. It's Errol here. Dora just said that she can't unfortunately join. There are a series of issues that raised lately in the past of her volunteers. So she asked if it's possible if EURAXESS could address briefly Marie Sklodowska's reactions in her last email, please. And I wanted to share this information with you. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Yeah. EURAXESS, please go ahead and maybe just touch on the other programs as well.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Right. Okay, you are there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is Yedelfana Satarge. I'm from EURAXESS Africa. I'm based at Addis Ababa University. I'm also associate professor on energy technologies at the Center for Environmental Science. I'm also a regional representative for EURAXESS Africa, along with my colleague, Dr. Ahmed Malal, who is also an associate professor at the University of Sousse. He's based in Tunisia. Unfortunately, today he had another webinar, which is focused on Horizon Europe, Mediterranean Initiative too. So unfortunately, he didn't join us, but I represent EURAXESS Africa here. But both of us work for the whole Africa to disseminate, to provide information about Horizon Europe to all researchers and institutions in Africa. So our role is basically to increase African participation in this prestigious and very large research and innovation funding program of the European Union. So before I directly go to EURAXESS Africa services, let me bring to explain about EURAXESS Worldwide, as we are part of EURAXESS Worldwide. This initiative is supported by European Commission and established since 2013. It evolved over the years, and currently we have 9 hubs outside of Europe to support this scientific collaboration between Europe and African researchers and innovators. So we have this EURAXESS platform or networking platform that very informative tool that provides reliable information for talented researchers on the move to explore and develop careers in Europe, including a vibrant researcher innovators like you from Africa. So all services in EURAXESS is free of charge. So basically, we provide free access to information about research in Europe. We provide opportunities for research funding, particularly from Horizon Europe, including the Marine School Curricular Actions and European Research Council grant, and the recent one today, Focus Africa initiatives and also Mediterranean initiatives in Pillar 2 of the Horizon Europe program. We also provide practical tips to pursue scientific career in Europe for researchers of African, and we provide access to international collaboration. We facilitate the collaboration between African and European researchers and institutions, and we provide transnational mobility opportunities. This network is open to all nationalities, including to all African countries and to all research disciplines, research fields, and at all career stage, from junior to senior, for example, from lecturer to professor, can also participate in some of these Horizon Europe programs. So as I already mentioned, we have 9 dedicated EURAXESS Worldwide team outside of Europe. Almost we distributed throughout the world. We have a hub in North America, in Latin America and the Caribbean, of course in Africa. We have in India, Asia, China, Japan, Korea, and Australia. As far as I know, we're able to build the largest researchers database in the world. We have more than 150,000 researchers who are regularly informed about Horizon Europe and other EU funding programs from EURAXESS Worldwide team. Among these, 20,000 are from Africa, including participants of this webinar. We organize over 3,000 events, both physical and online events, including this. And if you count the EURAXESS Africa part alone, we are able to organize more than 125 events in the last 2-3 years. By the way, EURAXESS Africa is among the youngest hub in the EURAXESS Worldwide, established in 2022. And currently, I would say it's the central platform for EU-Africa research and innovation collaboration. And we are also very happy to be part of this very interesting webinar today. As a main task in EURAXESS Africa, we manage and develop EURAXESS Africa networks. We manage our portal, we manage our database, our contacts, and social medias. We are abundantly present in online medias, in social medias, in LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Instagram, and the like. We facilitate connections between researchers and institutions in Africa and Europe. We support for African researchers by providing information, reliable information, up-to-date information. We also provide advice and assistance to researchers in institutions who would like to participate in one of these Horizon Europe initiatives. Support the career development. If you visit our portal, if you visit our social medias, you will get many supportive or many educative, informative videos and presentations. We organize capacity building trainings in collaboration with experts, in collaboration with European Commission, DTRDG, and in collaboration with NCPs, experts, fellows, grantees, awardees of previous Horizon 2022 and also Horizon Europe grantees and experts in the area that we are interested to deliver our webinar. We also promote European research opportunities to African. We try to raise awareness of European research opportunities among African researchers and institutions, support the participation of African researchers and institutions in Horizon Europe. This is one very good example that we are intend to increase our participation in Horizon Europe 2025 work package program. So we also reinforce the networking of all R&I African actors. So unfortunately, Dora was supposed to be here to explain about the MSA actions, which is included in a Pillar 1 along with the European Research Council grants. It's very prestigious and many people actually already benefit even from Africa. For Horizon Europe, it has about 6.6 billion fund from 2021 to 2027. Almost yearly, we have about 1 billion funds for this mobility and this capacity building program. So as most of you already know, under the MSA action, we have 5 different actions. The first one that we can mention is that doctoral networks, MSA doctoral network, is mostly for the doctoral programs. The PhD scholarship is a fully funded program. Individual researcher or as an institute can also participate in this program. The second one is the postdoctoral fellowship. It's a postdoctoral scholarship after a PhD as individual researcher from Africa, for example, or as an institute can also participate in this initiative. The third one is the staff exchange. It's not actually individual fellowship. It's actually an institution through professors, through doctors can apply to this initiative. It supports research and innovation for staff exchange and mobility. Secondment is included in this initiative. There is also co-fund and MSA and citizens, which is public outreach events. So the Marie Curie, as you know, is named after a famous scientist, the Marie Curie, who won a Nobel Prize twice, both in chemistry and in physics. It's a research and a training program based on scientific excellence. It's up to you to come up with any kind of topic. It's not a predefined topics like as we seen or as we heard from Dr. Vincenzo in previous presentation from Pillar 2. That's from bottom up. This is it's up to the researcher who come up with the idea to compete for the Marie Curie program. So it equips researchers with new knowledge and skill through the mobility and training. So any topics is acceptable, except maybe some specific ones. So as it's already mentioned by Dr. Vincenzo, it's about the beneficiary and associated partners, as already clearly mentioned. The legal entities based in EU member states or associated countries to the Horizon Europe can receive EU funds to carry out the projects from the Horizon. They can recruit and supervise researchers and can also involve in training, etc. We are lucky we have Tunisia, the only African country so far associated to Horizon Europe. But it's also mentioned that Egypt and Morocco are progressing very well. So maybe very soon we'll have 3 African countries who can be receiving EU funds directly. So that will be a good opportunity for us as well. As associated partners, of course, anyone located in the world, including institutions in Africa, can be part of this Horizon Europe initiatives. So contribute to action by hosting secondments. African institutes can host the secondments in their premises, allowing for scientific or transferable skills and trainings. Costs, if any, will be taken care of by the beneficiaries. So we can be a beneficiary in most of the Horizon Europe programs, including the MSA. So let me clearly explain how can African researchers and institutes participate in Horizon Europe. To me, there are 3 ways to participate. The first one is there is funding for individual researchers, as I already mentioned, the Marie Curie Action, the doctoral network, the PhD scholarship, and the MSA postdoctoral fellowship. It's a postdoctoral fellowship, as well as the European Research Council grants. This is also included in a Pillar 1. The European Research Council grant includes the starting grant, consolidated grant, advanced grant, synergy grant, and proof of concept grant. So there are 5 different grant schemes in EURAXESS. All of them can participate as individual researchers. But the main criteria here is that you need, of course, to find hosting institute in one of the EU member states or associated countries as a criteria. I don't think it's actually also difficult to get hosting institutes. The only thing that you need to get during the application is the agreement or the support letter from that institute, then you can participate. Once you get it, definitely you will have a contract agreement with that institute, a legal entity in Europe or in associated countries, then you can proceed your research. So researchers of all nationalities, including all African countries, are welcome to participate in these 3 funding schemes. The other one that were already mentioned by Dr. Vincenzo is the funding for collaborative research. The Africa Initiative 3 is part of this collaborative research under Pillar 2. So together with at least 3 entities from 3 different countries of the EU member states or from countries associated to Horizon Europe. And at least 1 should be from the member state. The rest, not only 1, but we can have many participation from let's say, from Africa, let's say from Nigeria. So at least we need to have 1 EU legal entity to participate in this collaborative research. The third one, and the very simple one, is that in EURAXESS portal, we have the job and vacancy section where you could find PhD, postdoc, and other job vacancy positions that are published in the EURAXESS portal. As you know, every EU funded projects, they advertise their vacancies in our portal. So if you go through this directly, you can get more than 10,000 of jobs at the moment, for example. So for PhD, for postdoc, you can directly apply to the EU funded projects directly through EURAXESS portal. This is the simplest one. So I think I will not go to the statistics because Dr. Vincenzo clearly gave you the necessary statistics about Nigeria and about African participation in the previous framework of program Horizon 2020 and as well as the Horizon Europe so far. Let me explain very clearly here because Dora is not here. So let me tell you that yes, MSA and other Horizon Europe schemes are very competitive. Yeah, we know that, but it's also very promising, very promising. If you look at the Horizon 2020, MSA alone, more than 2,297 African researchers from 45 different African countries have benefited from this project alone, from this program alone. Under this, I have come up that more than 161 researchers are from Nigeria, from 10 different organizations. This is only for the prestigious Marie Scholar Curie actions. When it comes to the Horizon Europe program, so far, 485 African researchers from 33 African countries have participated. We have more than 2 years again to go, so definitely this number will significantly increase. If you look at in terms of the organization, more than 114 different African organizations with 153 participation so far in Horizon Europe. So this is the calendar for the MSA for these 5 actions for doctoral, postdoctoral, staff exchange, co-fund, and citizen. So I will also send this slide, and so that you can get the detailed information, and also kindly recommend you to visit the MSA website frequently and the EU funding and tender portal for the updated timeline. So in EURAXESS, we have different tools to disseminate this information, disseminate the practical information. We have a portal I already mentioned, we have a social media, and we have a flash note. What I didn't mention that it's a flash note. I kindly request, if you are not still a member of EURAXESS, if you are not part of this database, I kindly invite you to sign up for free membership to EURAXESS Africa, so that you can get up-to-date, reliable information about the Horizon Europe program, where they start and what are the capacity building, what kind of webinar upcoming webinars, everything we'll disseminate on a regular basis, on daily and weekly, and also a quarterly basis. All the information we have from the headquarters or from central management of EURAXESS worldwide. So this is the front window for EURAXESS Africa. You can type EURAXESS Africa in any browser, then you directly end up with this kind of window. So at the yellow highlight, you can see the sign up for free membership. So if you click it, you get a very small question and answers, and you will simply or easily sign up for our flash note and newsletters. So what I would like to mention here is that keep your and your organization profile in the EURAXESS. If you go to the top right, there's a login. So you need to have EU login for you. Then you can provide your profile, your personal profile, as well as your institution profile, so that it will be visible for others. For example, for EU member state researchers or associated country researchers who are actually looking for partners in Africa. So if your file is available on our portal, then you will be part of the project. It's very simple as it is. The other important thing is that it's a partnering, especially in Pillar 2, you need to collaborate. You need to be a member of the consortium, right? So you need to find a partner institute in EU member state, in associated country, or in third countries. So this website has a dedicated section for partnering. As you can see in this window, we have more than 500,000 institutions, organizations provide their profile into EURAXESS. So by keywords, you can filter maybe in your expert area, or maybe in a country or in an institution, you can find your right business or academia or entrepreneur or researcher from worldwide, including in Europe. So it's really very useful tool to find the right partner in the establishment of the consortium to apply for, including for Africa Initiative 3. It's not only for information, we also provide news. And in our event section, you could also find links to recorded videos of our previous events. on different programs, including the Marie Curie dedicated webinar, ERC dedicated webinar, Africa Initiative 3 dedicated webinar for different countries or for the whole in Africa. So I really invite you to go through our social media in our portal to get more information about the actively going initiatives of the past events, and also you can find registration link for the upcoming events. We are many upcoming events, both physical and webinars, online events in the future. So you can get it in our event section of the portal. Vincent's also mentioning this portal. In addition to EURAXESS, this is again the most important portal for researchers and institutes who would like to participate in Horizon Europe. This is EU funding and tender portal. I hope most of you have already EU login account and are familiar with this portal. This is a portal where you could find call for proposals, including these 24 topics for Horizon Europe Africa Initiative 3. This is a place where you find each calls of the Horizon Europe 2025 work program, and of course other EU programs. So as you can see here, under funding, you can have calls for proposals for 100.
Yeah, but I think we are running a bit short of time because there are two more presentations before, I think 3.
Yes,
if you could wrap up, I think we all of us have the same slide, but thank you, because I won't comment on it. I don't know, Errol, if you had it, I don't think so. But yes, please, if you could wrap up.
Definitely. I'm almost finishing my presentation in less than 5 minutes. So I think just the portal is one-stop shopping. So I think if you go there, it's very informative and you can easily navigate through this portal for many information. And like in EURAXESS, you can also find partner search section here in EU funding and tender portal. But the most important here is that your institute must register in this website. So you need to have a participant identification code, PIC code. If not, there is a procedure to get the PIC code in this website. But this is really the must to have it to participate in Horizon Europe. So I go very quickly. This is our physical event participation so far in previous events in Ethiopia and different parts of the country. This is in Kenya, this is in Senegal, Cameroon, Rwanda, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, South Africa, and different places. I had also a chance to participate in Nigeria EU Innovation Day last year. We also have been in University of Irorin in Nigeria last year. It's not only that, but this year we are also planning to attend and present opportunities at the EU Nigeria Innovation Day later this year. And these are the physical events planned for EURAXESS Africa. We are planning to travel more than 10 African countries. If not this year, we plan for next year. These are the webinars. I think, as I already said, you can visit our YouTube for the previous webinars and also for the upcoming webinar. You'll get it in our flash note. Let's build together EURAXESS Africa researchers and innovator community. Together we can bring change. These are additional resources. Yeah. Then finally, I would say that thank you for being part of this, and also you'll get this slide in addition to other presentation of today later this workshop. Thank you, Leila. I'm done now.
Thank you very much, Farhan.
Okay.
Thank you again. I know you have a lot to say, but I'm sure Errol has a lot as well. Michael, Prof. Michael, you wanted to take over before we hand over the mic to Errol?
No, I just want to call on Errol so that because the time is getting tight now, Errol can who will come later. Thank you, Errol.
Thank you very much, Professor Faborode. Thank you very much, dear Leila. Indeed, I'm very pleased to be with you. So I would like just to warmly welcome you, all the participants and all the protocols observed. And as Ambassador Gauthier Mignot has pointed out, Erasmus Plus is also in synergy with Horizon Europe and Africa Initiative 3, And I would like also to try to develop furthermore this aspect and to show to what extent it could do so. So indeed, when we look at the program Erasmus+, it has numerous education, research, and innovation opportunities open to African institutions and researchers, including the ones from Nigeria, such as Jean Monnet Actions, which are more about European Union studies, and also comparative analysis with regional integration approaches in Africa. The Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters were actually are also open to African higher education institutions as well, even if they want as a coordinator. But what is more interesting also in the Erasmus Plus program is that there are certain actions of Erasmus Plus program which have dedicated budgetary envelope for Sub-Saharan Africa. This means that proposals submitted under this envelope, this financial envelope, compete only within the Euro-African space, not globally. And for instances, these are the Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange Sub-Saharan Africa call on Key Action 1 regarding learning mobility of individuals. And on Key Action 2, it's cooperation among institutions. And here, two opportunities. The first one is capacity building in higher education for Sub-Saharan Africa and capacity building in the field of vocational education and training. The sources where you can find the Erasmus program is here. I have pointed out there. And my colleague, Dr. Yedelfane, has also pointed out the EU funding and internal portal, which is a very important sources. And I share with you the link where you can find all the call for proposals and many other informations there. So regarding the key action, learning mobility of individual, it's Erasmus Plus virtual exchange in higher education for Sub-Saharan Africa. The thematic areas are inclusion and diversity, digital transformation, environment and fight against climate change, and participation in democratic life, common values, and civic engagement. Virtual exchanges are also bottom-up initiative. That means that higher education institutions from and even research institutions from Africa and European Union can come up with innovative ideas. But in Sub-Saharan Africa, actually, applicants are encouraged to give priority to either least developed countries or to put emphasis on migration's priority countries in Africa. Applicants are also encouraged to involve participants from a wide range of countries, and especially partners that have less experience or no experience at all in Erasmus+, so showing that Erasmus+ is also an inclusive program. As I mentioned to you, it is open to research institutions and higher education institutions, and the budget per project is maximum 500,000 euros. The deadline is a regular deadline in comparison to Marie Skłodowska-Curie action, where you have each year a call. This is the same here with the Erasmus Plus virtual exchange, and generally it's at the end of any year. So the last call was at the end of April 2025. Now the proposals are going to be evaluated. So one could expect the next call to appear in April 2026 and April 2027. The second opportunity is the capacity building in the field of vocational education and training, to which we organized a workshop on writing proposals. It was in early January this year. But actually, when it comes to Sub-Saharan Africa, I mentioned earlier to you that least developed and migration priority countries are important, but in addition, this type of calls needs also to enhance public and private dialogue, meaning that an emphasis should be placed on fostering dialogue and collaboration between that institutions and the private sector. And an additional point is also to pay a lot of attention to the Global Gateway Investment Package project that align with and contribute to the objective of the EU-Africa Global Gateway Investment Package are also prioritized. The budget per project here is between 100,000 euro and 400,000 euro. It is also open to research institutions and higher education institutions in Sub-Saharan Africa and European Union. The deadline is also regular, like Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. For instance, the last call was at the end of February 2025, and one could expect the next calls to have a deadline at February 2026 and 2027. The third key action, and probably the most, the one who complements and who is in many aspects the most in synergy with higher education, with Horizon Europe and Africa Initiative 3, is of course the capacity building in higher education. You see that the priorities here are, for instance, fostering links between education, research, and business in the area of digitalization. We all know, for instance, that artificial intelligence is very fashionable now, so projects in that respect are eligible, but not only, of course, artificial intelligence, there are also many digitalization issues to be addressed. The second one, priority, is to strengthen the link between academic sector, research, and business to address current and future skills needed in the frame of sustainable growth and jobs. In many countries, we know that there are problems of unemployment, so it's very important also for this type of project to address this problem of shortage of skills by also bringing together academic research and business institutions in Africa, or as our colleagues has mentioned earlier, with other African institutions having the same problem. Thus, for instance, among other, the expected impact could be transferring teaching and research results to the community country in Sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria, or quality assurance tools to support researchers. Here we have to distinguish three strands. The first strand is fostering access to cooperation in higher education. The second one is transforming higher education. And the third open call is structural reform projects. You see that the budget is also different. From strand 1, it's between 200,000 euro and 400,000. For strand 2, between 400,000 and 800,000 euro. And for strand 3, between 800,000 euro and 1 million euro. Actually, when we look at the competition, most of the competition between Euro-African institutions is in strand 2 here, regarding indeed the transformation of higher education institution. So that means that strand 1, actually, there are less competition over there. So I'm just saying this, actually, to share with you. Deadline is the beginning of February of 2026 and 2027. The last call was actually at the beginning of February 2025. Of course, the next calls has to be confirmed by the Erasmus Plus program. So if we go a little bit further regarding fostering access to cooperation in Nigerian higher education institution, for instance, here, the stand is designed actually to attract less experienced higher education and small-scale actors to capacity building higher education institutions. So that means that this trend welcomes newcomer organizations. We know that in Nigeria there are hundreds of higher education institutions. So the newcomer or the less experienced have a lot of chance to be successful here. And the eligible topics are, for instance, health, climate change. So there are a lot of potential here to give the chance and to include higher education in Nigeria, which have not yet benefited from this call. And also to reach out to people with fewer opportunities. This could be in terms of gender balance, of rural opportunities, or even of poorer socio-economic backgrounds. So it's really a very good strand and call for proposals to include higher educations which are generally not benefiting from Erasmus+. The second one is actually the Strand 2, the one with a budget between 400,000 and 800,000 euro. It's about transforming, for instance, Nigerian or African higher education institutions. And project under the Strand shall introduce new approaches and initiatives in Nigerian higher education. And they have actually to show a significant long-term impact. And it's important that this project combines two elements, at least: innovation. One needs to show that are really innovation in Euro-African cooperation, and promotion of reform in higher education institutions in Nigeria. So in terms of research, that means that first, one needs in this proposal to show active engagement with business world and with research, and also secondly, to strengthen the capacities of higher education to network effectively in research, scientific and technological innovation, meaning scientific cooperation, knowledge transfer, diplomatic sciences as well. The last call that I want to talk about is the structural reform project. Projects under this strength in capacity building in higher education actually shall support efforts in Nigeria to develop coherent, inclusive, and sustainable systems. We talk about systems of higher education to meet socio-economic needs in Nigeria, and also ambition to create a knowledge-driven economy. In that aspect, a structural reform project will address needs of Nigeria to reform and modernize their systems. And they should necessarily involve ministries, so the competent national authorities, notably ministries of education of Nigeria, they should have also a role in actually contributing to systemic changes. One last message that I would like to share with you is the growing importance of global gateway priorities. And here Nigeria has expressed its priorities, and we could distinguish, for instance, on capacity building in higher education, the priorities on climate and energy, on agri-food, climate and energy, on education and research, transports, and digital. If, for instance, we take the agri-food, climate and energy, the Nigerian priority is about supporting youth entrepreneurship in the agri-food sector, connecting renewable energy and the agri-food sectors. The context also is provision of combi-tracks, solar energy and horticulture in Nigeria, support to young people in setting up their own business in the agri-food sector or finding a suitable job. For instance, another example regarding education and research, the Nigerian priority is about enhancing agricultural colleges, technical colleges, agri-related vocational institutions with a focus on improving training quality and employment transition, particularly empowering girls and women. The context is the rehabilitation and equipment of TVET, training institution in Benue, Plateau, and Oyo states. Another aspect to show some complementarities with Dr. Vincenzo's contribution on Horizon Europe Africa Initiative 3 regarding Pillar 2, it's climate and energy. For instance, the Nigerian priority here is on grid renewable energy. The context is generation and evacuation infrastructure for on-grid renewable energy hydropower for SME, for instance, in the agricultural sector, public healthcare facilities electrified with solar microgrid, the construction of small hybrid mini-grids, and also many other solar projects. So each African country has a global gateway priority, and with Erasmus Plus in capacity building in higher education, especially on Strand 3, they pay a lot of attention to this. And it's normal because it's the point of view of Nigeria on this. Some word of conclusion regarding Erasmus Plus in synergy with higher education, Horizon 2.
Thank you.
On Africa Initiative 3. Yes, yeah, I would like just to thank you also for your attention. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Errol. Thanks to all our speakers. Well, I quickly allow my co-moderator to make a presentation on African youths. participation?
Yes. So no, it's thank you
I know
very
she'll
much.
be very brief.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I just wanted to tell the participants that Errol, in fact, is a consultant that works for us, and he's providing support to the Horizon Europe NCP network, chaired or coordinated by Prof. Faborode, but also on Erasmus, and he organizes many workshops together with his colleagues to support Nigerian institutions in applying for Horizon Europe and Erasmus grants. So I just move very quickly to this one, which is what we call Africa Academic Mobility Scheme. I try to be super quick. It's going to be replaced by or complemented by a new call, and I want to go to that first. So Intra-Africa Academic Mobility Scheme is part of our flagship for youth mobility in Africa. And it aims at supporting learning opportunities, exchanges, and cooperation to promote Africa as a study destination. So it supports consortia of African higher education institutions to design courses together, offer credits, and offer at the same time scholarship opportunities for African trainees, students at master's and doctoral levels, and as well as university staff. So it's less well known than Horizon and Erasmus. It comes not from it's not one of our flagships, but it's one of our large programs from the development arm of the Commission in SPA. And its specific target is like creating an Erasmus, an African Erasmus, or helping Africa design an African Erasmus. So the program works that way. It provides support to consortia for the organization and implementation of international mobility across the continent. So the project then gives scholarships to students and university members to carry out studies, research projects, teaching and training assignments. So each consortium consists of a minimum of 4 to a maximum of 6 African higher education institutions from one sub-Saharan region or from the 3 sub-Saharan regions. So it's cross-regional. But I share the PowerPoint as we will all share all these presentations, yes. So, and one higher education institution must participate from the EU as a technical partner. Then the selected projects receive a 4-year grant of 1.8 million maximum, and 50% of the grant contributes to the cost of institutional activities and the rest for scholarships. So this is the call. So we have had the first edition was in 2023. We received the list of awardees earlier this year. So we later in 24, sorry. And we're currently into the call for proposal 2024. So the call closed last year, and HQ is now processing all the applications received. We received 99 proposals with 43 countries as coordinator or partner. This is why you see that in the slides because we're late. These are the thematic areas. You will recognize some of the ones we mentioned talking about Horizon Europe. Again, this is what we call the Global Gateway strategy. Climate and energy, education and research, digital, health, transport, and raw materials. And then per country, you will see Nigeria here, 7. So that's for the call for 24. These 7 universities or other type of institutions applied as coordinator this year. I mean, in 24, but it's processed this year. And then you have overall the participation as either coordinator or partner. It's 47 overall. And then, so that's not what you see it. So I wanted just to highlight this, how you can apply. If you're a higher education institution, it's the same link as the one shared by Errol and the one, not by Errol, sorry, by Fana and by Vincenzo. It's always this one, the portal. And if you're an individual student, that want to go to study in one of those schemes, this is where you apply. Intra-Africa scholarships, or through the universities that are leading in the consortium. So now, this is going to be complemented from next year by another large program, which we now call Study and Research in Africa, to target research more specifically. I don't have many details. I asked our HQ, but we will have only more information from Q4 this year, and it should be launched sometime next year. It will provide specifically African higher education institutions so we have there 3 objectives. Support HEIs to be more visible, accessible, strengthen their profile, branding, and so on. Attract mobile learners, so probably digital platforms, but I don't have any details yet. Build up partnerships on this, in the innovation ecosystem with the private sector, doing public-private partnerships, and also in supporting these HEIs in being study destinations. Is a bit like our own scheme Erasmus in Europe. When you're at a university, you apply to be the host of an Erasmus master degree. Then you need to be able to deliver on a certain number of opportunities for the students. And then this call is supporting. This new program will be supporting universities in Nigeria to do so. So in all, this program is 60 million euros, but we will be sharing information, and I'm sure that Errol and his team will be training again or doing workshops on this specific topic. Thank you very much, Mike. I leave the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Leila, for the insights, and I must thank all our speakers again, from Vicenzo to Yana and to Errol, and of course you, for giving great insights to how our researchers can benefit and take advantage of the opportunities under Horizon Europe, EURAXESS, Erasmus, and the others. So thank you very much. I think right now we still have up to over 640 participants, which is very huge, and this is a very successful engagement. And to also have the European ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS attending from our embassy in Belgium is quite very helpful. We want to thank everybody. But we cannot bring this to a close without hearing from the voices of Nigerian scientists. And so in the next few minutes, we are going to listen to 4 presenters, Nigerian scientists, and we shall be starting with Dr. Omolola Olaide, who's a senior lecturer in economics from Elizabeth University. They will share their experiences and insights, and also what they feel that can make things better for us. So we'll start with Omolola, and then we will have 3 others. I will call them as they are due. So thank you, Omolola. Please go ahead.
Thank you all, and I'm really excited to be with you to share about my work. I'm happy to be part of a Horizon Europe project called Dynamic, and it has afforded me the opportunity as a researcher, but also my institution, Elizabeth University, the opportunity to compete on the European stage. And so for 5 minutes, I will share how this grant has changed my research trajectory. So our grant is about migration, the JAPA, JAPADA, and all of those dynamics of leaving and returning. And we are particularly interested from the aspiration stage all the way to how policy affects this. So we think about the decision to migrate, the aspiration from the aspiration stage, the journeys and the twists and turns that those journeys take, as Kapendonk describes it, and what how policy matters to this. We are a consortium of about 8 institutions. 3 of them are African institutions. That is my university here in Nigeria, Ahmad POC, which is the African Migration Policy and Development Center in Kenya, and the University Mohammed VI Polytechnic, which is in Morocco. And then we have the lead institution, which is the Kiel Institute for the World Economy in Germany. We have ECDPM in Brussels, and the European Union, the Migration Policy Center of the European University Institute in Brussels, as well as Middlesex University. So, oh yes, and sorry, I shouldn't forget University of Luxembourg, where our friends are. So the 8 of us came together in 2022. We decided to write this proposal. It was really interesting because I just happened to be part of the consortium, so there are many ways you can become part of a project. I was required by a colleague to do a review of another person's paper at a seminar, and it was as a result of that review at the seminar that I was recommended to the Kiel Institute, to another group of researchers who were working on migration. And they became interested in working with us, particularly because, according to them at that time, there was not much work being done with Nigeria, and they hadn't established Nigerian partnerships. So I was very happy about this. It's been really exciting all through the last 3 years. We started in 2023, and our project ends December this year. How has it been? At the application stage, as I told you from my story, I have learned that research collaboration can, once it's effective, you can come up with a good project, and particularly one that represents particular interests. So, for example, for us, the way that we split our research is that we had work packages. Each country leads on one work package. I lead on the gender and migration work package, so I'm particularly collating all the results related to how migration decisions are gendered. And my colleagues lead on various packages, and of course, we also collaborate on all of these packages. The way that we've designed the research is to be inclusive. We have country reports in each country so that every country representative has some control over their reporting, over their interaction with policymakers. I'll show you a little later. We've had a couple of workshops, including one in Nigeria, in Ilara Mokin here, where I am in Ondo State. But what's also been interesting, you can see from there, BlockBridge, one of the instruments we used in our data collection. We have been interested in cutting-edge data. Some of our research explores behavioral tendencies, so not just, as economists, we tend to think about migration as a rational decision-making process where we weigh cost and benefits. But there are other things about character traits, and we've tried to capture those in our various research. And this instrument was brought by my colleague from Middlesex University. She introduced it as part of how we can collect ideas about emotions and desires. We found it really useful. It was my first time to use a BlockBridge during this project. Our project also includes something we've called digital diaries, which meant that we had a longitudinal 6-month data collection process where people submitted videos about their experiences. And that was really exciting to me because, again, in terms of that methodology, that's new. It's simple. I told you we split our research, our work into work packages, but it's also complex because they're mixed methods. Some of our colleagues are doing conjoint studies. We're collecting data on the field. Some are collecting them online, and there are many ways in which we're collecting and processing data. So it's been really exciting and complex. particularly because it's an interdisciplinary group. I'm an economist, but we have political scientists among us, geographers, and other disciplines that have their own perspectives. That has been really interesting, trying to ensure that we're understanding outside of our own discipline and pushing those boundaries into understanding how other people, how other disciplines view the same concepts. And we've looked at heterogeneous migration groups. So often people focus on, especially for Nigeria, there's been a lot of work on irregular migration, but we've not focused entirely on irregular migration, but rather on labor migration and other types of migration as well. But also interesting because of the way that we've structured our project. So we can study Nigerians leaving Nigeria, Nigerians who have left Nigeria and are in Kenya because we're in partnership with Ahmad POC, Nigerians who've left Nigeria and are in Morocco, those who are staying in Morocco and those who are moving onwards to Europe, for example, and Nigerians who have arrived in Italy. I told you earlier on, we're partners with European University Institute in Florence, Nigerians who have arrived in the UK. So you see, coming together as this geographically dispersed group has allowed us to look at the same unit, a Nigerian migrant, from various perspectives. So it's given us the advantage of thinking of migration and the trajectories as non-linear. How does someone get to Morocco and move on? Yes, I'm going to be fast. I think I'm running out of time. So that's some of what we've been coming up with. We've been able to use large language models to talk about how migrants behave. I told you there was a workshop here at my university in May 2024 and at other of our partner institutions. And we're looking forward to the future. If I have a way of a last word to everyone here, I would say engage in groundbreaking research and find a way to improve your work through the global community. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know you could have gone on and on. Thank you for that. And I'm very impressed that that's coming from the humanities, and it's very heartwarming. And also, Elizabeth University is a private university, so that answers some of the questions on the chat box. Thank you very much. Dr. Lanide is a researcher. I'm going to bring on another researcher. Then after that, we'll have NCPs.
Yes.
So.
Sorry, Prof. So I have with me Prof. Dogo, who is
Yes. I know it's right with you there. We're presenting from that. Dr. Dogo is from University of Jos. That is a top scientist, and we would like to hear because he's had a lot of experience to share on this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Good to be here. I wanted to share my brief experience at the Africa Center of Excellence in Phytomedicine, which we've done a lot of work sponsored by the World Bank, and it was an 8 million grant. So we are focusing on $8 million, and of course we're focusing on phytomedicine. And out of 10 centers, Nigeria was given opportunity to us to host that since 2024 or 2014 to 2020. And of course, it's long gone, but sustainability phase in which we are now is to do research, innovation, commercialization, and entrepreneurship. Of course, we have attempted the Euro Horizon. We tried the intra-Africa mobility of students and staff, and which was tagged MICA, that is mitigating climate change in Africa. And then we almost got it, but it didn't work. But we did not give up. And we also tried another one, and Vector Africa. And the Vector Africa, we had a consortium of about 9 countries in the East, West, and even South Africa. And of course, we couldn't get, but we're learning. It's a process of learning, and we're not giving up. So we're hoping if this one comes up, we're going to this training or this is very, very important for us, because one thing we've discovered when it comes to research, innovation, or grant writing, you keep learning, and then of course you don't give up. And we are hoping that this will also help us. These are some of the partners in Africa, in Cameroon, in Kenya, Mozambique, and in Liberia. So, of course, we're targeting that, hoping that in the near future we'll get something, but we'll be focusing on vaccine. Part of the call that is on board. One of the novel vaccine that we invented is the anti-snake bite vaccine, the first ever in the world, and is to get into clinical trials that have been patented both nationally and internationally. And recently, we also developed a new vaccine against tick, which is of public health importance. And this was actually sponsored by TED Fund. And we thank TED Fund. And we are hoping that EU, when of course will come in, we'll put in some of our proposals to see how, particularly the antibody aspect, to see how that can be done for the benefit of Africa and Europe in general. Of course, other products by the Center of Excellence, they're all, when COVID came on board, we were able to develop something for the tea, the anti-COVID tea, which of course has been listed, and we're hoping that that will help. We're also collaborating with very, strong personalities like Tuku Boratai. These are private individuals that we work with on the snake vaccine development, and then snake venoms, and of course for us to control some of those environment in the country. Of course, we have our plans also for students for training and other things. So, Prof, you've been into a place, and I'm happy that Vincenzo is here. We've worked with Vincenzo for quite some time, almost 20 years, and we will continue to move on. And part of the grant is to upgrade our laboratories for research. This is one of our labs in the center there in University of Jos. And the only challenge we are facing is when it comes to Euro Horizon projects, the challenge of coordination. That sometimes you have to have a very strong collaborator or a specialist in Europe. Some of us studied in Europe, in Utrecht, and other universities in Europe. But we hope with time we'll be able to get some of this project. So I said thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that insight, and don't relent, just keep on going and going. What impresses me more about the center is that after being one of the World Bank centers, when funding stopped, the center had continued to work stronger. That is sustainability that has been built into their works. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. Now, I will call on two national contact points. Dr. Maruf Soni is based at the National Center for Technology Management. He's a deputy director, but is the NCP, specifically for the Marie Curie actions in Nigeria, and he has been very active. It will be good for him also to share his insights and experience with us, with all the participants. Dr. Soni, 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Hello, Dr. Soni, can you go ahead? I can see your screen.
Prof. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you very much. The name is Maruf Soni. As Prof rightly said, I'm also one of the MSCA National Contact Point for Nigeria. I'm going to be sharing my experience with regards to MSCA Postdoctoral Fellowship, which is also, part of MSCA Actions program. So this is what the outline looks like. I understand we are running out of time, so I'm just going to skip some slides. I wish the slides will be available for us to, later after the program. So my program was actually under Horizon 2020, which is the one before Horizon Europe. And my program took place in Milan, Italy, under a particular department called the European Institute on Economics and the Environment. They're actually based in Milan. They have several offices, but this particular one is based in Milan. And my supervisor was Professor Elena Fedolini, and I also have a project manager called Mary Hester. And the topic of my project then was eco-innovation and the dynamics of external knowledge sourcing. I was looking at both the Nigerian and manufacturing, sector at the time. I think Fana already discussed this, so I'm just going to skip. But meanwhile, I'm going to, wait here a bit to speak to MSCA Choose Europe for Science. This is actually a new program. The course will open around October 2025. So I will enjoy us to, check the website and find a way to, to apply. This particular program, the mobility route also applies, meaning that you shouldn't have, resided in Europe or within the organization that is recruiting you for more than 12 months. So that's one of the rules guiding this particular, program. Recently, if you check the European portal, there are 65 national and regional grant schemes that are there that you can actually choose from. They're also part of this particular, program called Choose Europe for Science. So I will implore us to check that particular program. So what does MSCA postdoctoral fellowship, offer you? It gives you what you see as top-tier supervision. Of course, the infrastructure is also top-notch because you get to visit organizations in Europe where there are, quality infrastructures. Of course, you will also be given generous allowance. It's not going to make you rich, but it will give you a decent allowance that you could actually, work with. And one good thing about the program again is that you get to design your own career development plans, by yourself, because it's more or less like a bottom-up approach to, to research projects. So you get to design this, by yourself. And of course, you could also have a secondment. So even to the industrial sector while you're on this particular, program. What this will give you at the end of the day, the kind of opportunity you get is that you begin to have some sort of a pathway to research leadership. For instance, you may now be looking at, after the program, you may be looking at starting, to write, proposals for ERC, for instance, after you gain some, some experience. And while you're on the program, there's also a particular association called MCAA, which is MSCA Alumni Association. You could also join this for networking purposes and career, development. So, of course, this particular program is highly competitive. I must say that in many instances, I've seen candidates who actually scored over 90%, and yet they were not funded. But the good thing about the program is that there's what they call MSCA Seal of Excellence, whereby if you score above 85%, 85 or above, you could be given this particular Seal of Excellence, whereby, and what this does for you is that you also have organizations who will be interested in applicants who have these high scores. And I've listed some of them here from Italy, France, Belgium, Croatia, Sweden, Slovakia. They all have programs that will take in some of these applicants, that score these higher, scores. So they could actually be taken, by these countries under some of these programs that I listed here on this slide. So what are the tips for sources if you are trying to apply, or if you already applied and you are, waiting to, for the results? Now, I think the application is on, and it will close in September. So you still have, chances to actually apply to some of this program. What I would advise you do is to check the platforms. You can check EURAXESS portal. You could also check EU funding and tender portal, where you could actually see some of these opportunities. Then you also have what they call CODIS. CODIS is also a platform whereby you could check, completed projects sponsored by, EU. This will give you an idea of kind of organization you could actually collaborate with. I understand some people were asking, How do we get, people to partner with? How do we form the consortium? If you actually check some of this platform, you get to see what you can do to actually link up with partners, in Europe. You also have a program now that's currently running called Radiance. Radiance is like a program meant for MSCA NCPs. And they have a platform called Matchmaking Platform. You can also check here and see, some of the partners you could actually work with. More importantly, host institutions for some of these MSCA actions. So as you are beginning to apply for this particular program, I will advise that as you put in your application, make sure you highlight, areas that are very important, for the reviewers to see, meaning you make them, in bold font so that they could see it, outrightly, what is important or what issue you are trying to address. Remember I said it's highly competitive. A lot of people are going to be applying across the world. So you need to make sure that your own proposals actually stand out, from the rest. So of course, one of the things you could do as an applicant is to also attend, info days like this one we are currently having. And you could know some of these events by checking EURAXESS platform. I'm sure a lot of them are actually listed on their platform, whereby you will be able to attend some of the info days. Then one thing I did, I also felt helped was that while I was on my program, I also, created a website, for my project specifically. So I created a project whereby I could showcase some of the outputs from the project. So I would advise you also do this if you are lucky to be funded. So what are the challenges? There are quite a number of, challenges, that I came across while I was on that particular program. The first was that, unfortunately, that was not like NCP when I started. So I couldn't actually get, information regarding the program. Then again, too, as you are applying, once you are funded, I will advise that you ask from your host institution regarding the salary, regarding the tax, because there are actually differences, in salaries that are paid across European countries. That's what we call correction factor, which will affect, some of the. So I would advise that you check with your host institution with regards to that. Then, with regards to residence permit, yes, sir, I will be done in just 1 minute. Yeah. So that's what they call residence permits too, which I also feel you should also ask from the host institution before you leave your home country. That will also be very, very, important. So of course, this program is not just for, for you to just go to Europe and attend. There are also opportunities that could also arise from that. One of them is that we've been able to submit, projects based on the experience we had from this particular project I just completed. We submitted 2 Erasmus projects. We are now participating in Radiance Consortium. We also submitted a project on decarbonization and many others. So once you go through this particular program, you'll have gained experience that will allow you to do some of these things. So I think I will stop here. I understand we are already running out of time. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution and the inspiration. We allow participants to fill their question. Let me quickly go to the last of the testimonies from Dr. Ijoma Nobeshiku, also of the Department of Plant Science, University of Jos. NCP, Green Transition. Please, 5 minutes, if possible less. Thank you. I hope she's been placed on the panelists. Okay, I think she's there. Please, can you unmute and start immediately?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Ijoma Adakunebechiku, a senior lecturer from the University of Jos. I'm also an NCP in the Horizon Europe project. I'm here to share my experience so far since we were inaugurated in February 2023. It's been an amazing journey for me as an NCP. I'm an NCP under
I have a network challenge.
Cluster 6. So, normal role as an NCP. My role as an NCP Yeah, okay. Can you hear me, Prof? Hello? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
but yeah, you lost contact, but continue.
Can you hear me, Prof?
Continue quickly. You lost contact for some time.
I can hear you.
All right.
Can hear you.
So,
We can hear you now.
okay, that's fine. As an NCP is to disseminate the calls. So far, especially about myself, we have been able to carry out several the Horizon Europe projects. I have cooperated with other people in other areas to ensure information so people will know about the Horizon. The major for this, the reason why the NCP network has been inaugurated is to ensure that we have more researchers that know about these calls, and so that we can bring the grants to Nigeria. So in my university, for instance, I've partnered with the ORD department to organize seminar for scientists, for researchers, for lecturers to know about the calls. I've also interacted with other people in other universities so as to tell them about the call. Okay, so it's been an interesting journey. Sorry, let me share my screen.
Well, just speak to us in few sentences so that we can.
Can you see my screen, please?
No, your screen is not coming up.
Okay. Okay. Can you?
Our time is totally gone now, so just speak for some 2 minutes and then we hand on.
Okay. One of the activities as an NCP, we disseminate information about the calls. Personally, I've had an experience, I've had a hands-on experience on the MSCA postdoc application, and that gave me an insight on how it is done. Okay, I've had a first-hand experience trying to get a supervisor, trying to get partnership, and it was really an exciting journey for me because it gave me an insight on how I can also reach out to people and tell them about the MSCA calls. Also, networking is very important for us to do this as to get this done in Nigeria so we can get more researchers in Nigeria, because with networking, you're able to partner with people. But one major challenge we're having in Nigerian NCP network, it's the ability to reach out to form a consortium. Okay, so I'm using this platform to call on the global NCP network if we can have an interactive forum. We'll have several of that. We have a WhatsApp group and we have several fora where we can interact as NCP so that we can help researchers get partners from outside Nigeria. Okay, networking is very important because it gives you a platform to interact with others. Using the NCP network, I had a trip, to Europe, an all expenses paid trip to Europe, using the MSC network. That's the NCP network. So being an NCP has indeed been a good journey for me because it has given me the opportunity to network and meet people in terms of research. So we hope that this platform will help. We've had people also call from other schools to ask, what is this NCP thing about? What is the Horizon Europe thing about? And we're able to give them information because of the numerous trainings we have had. I must commend the EU. They have trained us in several ways, grant writing. We've had several trainings online on how to ensure that Nigeria is on the map, in terms of getting Horizon Europe grants. So this has really given me a very good platform, and I hope we'll have more researchers to join the movement.
Okay. Thank you very much for the insights you have given. And I want to thank all our 4 scientists who have made their submissions, and all our presenters on the mobility programs. The Q&A panel has several questions, but
Yes.
I think we can just have Leila, Aaron, if you want to quickly comment briefly, and then
I
move on to the
don't
conclusion.
know. We have a lot of questions. I tried to answer some of them, but before we close, did you have an announcement to make? Because I think you wanted to organize the next session on MSCA, right? So the next workshop.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have.
Yes.
Maybe it's a bit good to share it with everyone here in the call, since we are here today together. But I don't know, Vincenzo, do you want us to take up a couple of questions? I think a lot of questions we're dealing with. How do we link up with universities? How do we link up with universities in Europe? And that's what you're trying to do with the network, correct? One of the things you do.
I think the attendance has been massive. The contributions, the questions are very massive. And we're going to collate all this and provide answers and make sure that we reach to all the participants so that everybody can be, can get satisfactory answers. I think it has been a challenge for us to be able to network more properly. I mean, because we have so many researchers on this event. But unfortunately, Cognity is not displayed within the panel. I think everybody needs to know about what the role of Cognity in coordinating the Nigerian NCP network. And then, they can provide answers and guidance to a lot of the questions that have been raised. So we will also communicate the contact of Cognitive Advisory to all the participants, because that is an inroad to getting more and more information. And we also want to appreciate those who have been involved in our trainings, Errol and Roberto, and also EURAXESS for what they have done to host this platform. But I think unless either you or Errol or Fana, have one or two things to say, I think we can begin to conclude now, because the time is fast spent. Thank you.
So thank you, Prof. I don't know, Vincenzo, if you want to give a few words or if you want me to wrap up the workshop or the session. Well, you can start and I wrap up if you want. Vincenzo? Or the Nigerian embassy?
So yeah, colleagues, before we wrap up, could we try and answer this question that I've seen in quite the chat? So some scientists, this is more for Errol and Fana. Several scientists asking, can I apply for a Maris-Kloss-Cook reaction as an individual, and also for Dr. Sani? So how do we answer to this question?
Maybe Fana, can I say something?
Yeah, please say something, but also to provide information that there will be a specific event on the MSCA action very soon. It was to come after this, but that will be an overlook. So there's going to be a separate event on that, and that will be advertised. But please, Yana, please go ahead.
Exactly. That's what I want to say. There are recorded videos already on MSCA Doctoral Network, Postdoctoral in our YouTube, as well as there are also upcoming events on MSCA specific to doctoral, postdoctoral, and the staff exchange. But just to answer the question, yes, or individual researcher from universities, from academics, from outside of academy, from small and medium enterprise, they can apply. They can apply to MSCA programs. as individual researcher. For example, for doctoral and for postdoctoral researchers, they can apply, but they need to get a support letter from an entity in Europe or in associated countries. This is the main criteria, and there are also other criteria that can be obtained from MSA websites for different these actions, MSA actions. I strongly invite them to go through the MSA website for each initiatives.
Yes, and on the Intra-Africa Mobility Program, as I was mentioning when I briefly touched upon it, there is a call for individuals as well, for scholarships, to go study in either one university that is part of the consortium, like do a short mobility, or go to different universities that are part of the consortium, and provide the link is in the presentation that will be shared on the EURAXESS platform. And Errol, you want to add something?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to mention very briefly that with Professor Faborode, we are going, and also Community Advisory, and in consultation also with EURAXESS and the delegation, as well as the DG Research and Innovation, and DG Education, we are going, and the Research Executive Agency of the European Union, we intend to organize and deliver as soon as possible, an info day on Marie Skłodowska-Curie action, showing actually what are the main conditions to apply as an institution and as a researcher in the postdoctoral fellowship, in the staff exchanges, as well as in doctoral network. These are the three important points. That's a pity that Dora from Brussels, from the DGAC, is not with us, but she has very good reasons why she's not there. But she'd be also one of our key guests when we will do this Marie Curie Skłodowska Info Day, as well as guests from the Research Executive Agency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Errol. So could you please, can we already tell all the 500 people that are still here that they will receive an invite to attend this call, this workshop, or what info session on MSCA? Yes.
Absolutely. In consultation with Professor Faborode and with Community Advisory, full collaboration with them, and of course with the delegation.
Yes.
The European Union, yes, of course.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. We collect all the participants and have their contact, the emails, and send invitations to them also for that. Thank you. So I think we want to thank.
I just want Michael, if I may speak in behalf of my ambassador, yes, who had to leave because initially he wanted to pitch in, and maybe I don't know if someone from the government is still there, but I mean, we are, as you can see, there are a lot of opportunities to build up collaboration on research and higher education between Africa and Europe, and in particular between Nigeria and Europe, ECOWAS and Europe, everyone. And we are having more programs coming up, as I was mentioning. I'll give the information to our colleagues here, to Errol and to Prof. Faborode, on the last project I mentioned, study and research in Africa. But all of this to say that we're really trying to beef up collaboration between Nigeria and Europe. And it's opportunities that we're trying to have everyone, or the higher educations in Nigeria, benefit from. So to frame this into perspective, as the head of unit of RTD was mentioning, we are trying to sign an agreement between Nigeria and the European Union on science, technology, and innovation. That I think is almost ready, because we are very slow what the European Union is quite slow. We're trying to fast track, and then once we have finished with this, it will be with Nigeria, and then we start the negotiations. So it's an agreement that will frame and provide support to all those efforts at collaboration. Thank you. I don't know, Vincenzo, if you wanted to add anything on this. No? He's not saying anything.
Muted, Vincenzo. Can you unmute and make your closing Yeah,
thank you very much. I actually want to acknowledge and greet Shetima, our colleague from Nigeria Embassy. Shetima, have you got some ending remarks from your side?
Yes.
Actually, yeah, come here. I'll just move here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead. Yeah.
On behalf of the federal government of Nigeria and on behalf of the Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of Brussels to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU, we want to say thank you for taking the time to join this hybrid meeting. It was very educative, and we hope that the partnership between Nigeria and the EU can continue to blossom. We are looking forward to working with the Nigerian researchers as well as the EU on how we can make this relationship prosper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shetima. And from my side, very, very shortly, I want to try and use 2 keywords. I want to take a moment to thank all the colleagues from Brussels here, Brussels and Nigeria here, to Niger and of course Abuja and so on and so forth, and across the country, all the friends and researchers and innovators who are attending from across the world and Nigeria. This is for you, colleagues. And I just want to use 2 words. I think what we are building together and what Leila is referring to since the Ministerial of 2020 is really special. And I think, you know, it came across as very special when we were in Lagos in July last year in the Nigeria EU Innovation Days, and where we could see the vibrancy and the dynamism of our cooperation and the youthfulness of it. So we are hoping to do this in an even bigger fashion this year, at beginning of December, if all goes well, still in Lagos. And also, second word, the significance of what we're doing. It's politically meaningful, and thank you for being with us in more than 500, at some point close to 800 participants online. I believe I'm preaching to the converted here when saying that the cooperation of research and innovation is politically significant and really adds a positive agenda to the overall partnership between Nigeria and the EU. For 3 reasons, I would say. Research and innovation are without borders, they are forward-looking, and they are collaborative by nature. So hopefully, through this opportunity, and this is just one of the engagements that we want to endeavor to continue take together, will contribute to having larger numbers and more participation of Nigerian institutions in Horizon Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Prof, the last word is yours.
Thank you very much. All those who have supported this program, the EU delegation in Nigeria, and of course in Brussels, and our embassy, were able to host the ambassador, and for EURAXESS for hosting the platform. Something that we missed out is including cognitive advisory in the panelists, so that they would have been able to provide some answers and guidance. So we hope that we'll be able to correct this by sending the contact to all the participants. I want to thank everybody, the panelists. You have been so wonderful to have this large crowd up to now. We hope that this will yield good evidence as we have anticipated. We look forward to, we are very happy that many other African countries participated in this program. So the collaboration, the partnerships have already started, but we hope that Nigeria will be able to show the stuff and excel in this round of the Africa Initiative 3. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And we have come to the end of the presentation. Thank you, Leila. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the good work. Thank you, Fana, for all the efforts you put into hosting this big event from Brussels. From Addis. And see you all. And thank you from Nigerian Embassy to Brussels. I never go to Brussels. I need to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you here next time.
Thank you, everyone. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks to all our presenters.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Many thanks from the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
You.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye bye, Fana. Fana. Bye bye.
Bye bye, Maruf, my friend.
Okay.
Bye, Prof.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you, Prof, for nice moderating.
Thank you. So we'll keep in touch.
Keep in
Thank you. Okay. Right.